Right, I see it's now 15 minutes past 9. And what we'd like to do is start off. We've got an amazing program ahead of us this morning. But I'd just like to open with a few words. And I've spent quite a bit of time looking at what it means to be a successful entrepreneur. And, you know, what are those characteristics? What are the qualities that one needs to be a successful entrepreneur? And I think first and foremost, one needs to have a strong inner drive, something that pushes you constantly to help you see that you can succeed. And that inner drive, I think many of us have seen that coming through over the last few months in KZN, particularly the times that we've been through. But the inner drive that we have helps push us through the difficulties that have been experienced. And, you know, so one looks at those qualities, and I'm going to just touch on 5 qualities of what one would see in a successful entrepreneur. And the first quality is passion. And for those of you that know me, it's one thing that I always say: one has to have passion. You've got to be absolutely resolute, stubborn in your motivation and your passion. And it's one of the most important qualities that one can have. And I actually was thinking about this yesterday, and I went and had a look at what the word passion means. And it says hunger, thirst, something that drives you and makes you 100% determined. So I think that's really one of the first qualities that one would look at in an entrepreneur: have passion. The second one is self-discipline. And I think in the society that we live in today, we often don't see self-discipline coming through in the daily lives that we lead. And, you know, it's something that we need to look at constantly, is self-discipline. What are our ethics? How do we approach things? What is our conscience when it comes to fraud, for example, that is taking place within so many areas that we are connecting in? Moral standards have slipped so badly. The people's conscience is just not what it used to be. And so really self-discipline is an important trait in an entrepreneur. The next one is being ready to take a few risks and having the guts to step out and try something new, to start something new. And it doesn't mean to say you must go big or go home, but it's rather with your passion and self-discipline, take that risk, see what you can do and how it ends up. Lessons learned are better than no lessons learned. The next area is be creative. Think about things differently. And again, I mean, I just look at what's happened over the last couple of months and how many people have become so innovative in entrepreneurial opportunities, starting creative arts businesses, preparing delicious dinners and meals and delivering them. There's been so many new opportunities, new entrepreneurial ideas. So step out the box, think creative, think big. And then I think one of the last qualities just to talk about is persistence. You know, we can't stop, we can't give up, we must persist. And really that's something that I think we've learned in KZN, that many of us can be strong and push through to reach that success. So just with those few little words this morning, I'd like to just welcome each one of you to our special program that we've put together. Our speakers have been handpicked to share their journeys, their stories, and I'm sure that we're going to be greatly inspired by what each one of them are going to share with us this morning. Kwanalu has led the way in the agricultural and rural sector on women and youth matters. And many of our programs have been innovative, looking at how do we focus our objectives and energies on women and youth and not on theatrics and politics. And unfortunately, that is something that we see constantly playing out, are those theatrics and the politics that take place. We are an apolitical organization, so we are here to deal with the issues that affect the members and those that we are working with. So we're really excited about the program that we've started a few years ago. And as we've gone along, we've improved that, we've stepped it up, and we're really today in a very exciting place. And during the course of the morning, there's going to be an opportunity that's going to be opened up and it has been created, it's going to be opened up to you, but we'll be hearing more about that later on. So as I said, I'd like to welcome each one of our speakers this morning. Welcome to those those of you that are connected, those of you that are connected with a couple of you in the room together. We really look forward to the morning sharing, talking, and there's a lot of opportunity going forward. We had over 214 people registered for today, and I know that load shedding is one of the main factors that are severely affecting the connectivity. So what we will be doing is obviously from this morning, we will share the recording to each of the 214 people that have registered for today to ensure that we all have that opportunity to participate together. So during the course of the day, as I said, we've got a number of exciting speakers. You saw whilst you were waiting that we've got that agenda laid out for you. If you have any questions or comments, please use the Q&A button. If you look at the bottom of your screens, you will find there's Q&A. If you just click on there, please drop your questions into that or your comments into that block, and we'll then be able to respond to you, particularly when we have our open conversation session a little bit later this morning. So as the speakers are speaking, jot your questions down, jot them straight into that Q&A box, and we'll be able to respond to you. So without much further ado, what I'd like to see is that I'm not the only one talking to myself at the moment. So I'm going to just ask that we do a quick poll. And so what's going to happen is you're going to get a screen that's going to pop up in front of you in a second. And on that screen, there's a question that says, has connectivity limited you from doing business? And all you need to do there is choose your yes or no. Has connectivity limited you from doing business? And I see we're getting ticks coming through. Yes is leading 50%, 71, 78, 82. And let's see, give it a few more minutes as people are responding. And I see that we've got a 75% lead at the moment. Has connectivity limited you from doing business? Choose yes or no, and let's see what we have as a result. Right, let's count down. 3, 2, 1. So very interesting result. And the question was, has connectivity limited you from doing business? And 70% of our respondents online at the moment have said yes, it is limiting us from doing business. So thank you very much for responding to that poll that we've just had. Just want to check that my team, if you want, do you want to share the results? Great, we've captured that information. It's so useful for us going forward when we deal with service providers in the technology or cellular technology field to understand and say to them, look, this is a fact. Our respondents have told us that they were unable to connect. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to ask and hand over to Dr. Kathy Hurly. So Kathy, some of you have met her, is part of our team here at Kwanalu and has been successfully implementing our Women and Youth and Entrepreneurship program. And I'd just like to, as I say, hand over to her, and then Kathy will take us through an introduction around what Women, Youth, Rural Entrepreneurship WYRE is, and then she'll be introducing our first guest speaker. So as I said, just a reminder, please pop your questions into the Q&A box that we can then address those going forward. So from my side for now, thank you very much, and we look forward to an exciting morning going forward. Thank you, Kathy. Over to you.
Morning, everybody. Sorry, there are three buttons that I need to focus on, and so that appears to be a little bit challenging. So we're going to go straight into a presentation about WYRE, and so I'll be sharing the screen, which means the third thing that I've got to do this morning. So let's hope we get that all right so that we're able to have the presentation up and sharing properly. There we go. Right. So let's get on to the presentation in terms of what is WYRE. So our acronym that we're using is WYRE, Women and Youth in Rural Entrepreneurship. And it's a program that is made up of a specific number of projects. And you might say to us, you know, why Sandy already covered that it's in fact been something that Kwanalu has been interested in and supporting for a number of years. But why are we feeling this urgency at the moment in terms of women and youth and entrepreneurship in our country? So I thought it'd probably be good to start with the big boss, and we'll focus on what the presidency is saying and what the presidency has been saying to us over the last couple of months. Essentially, over the time since June until now, the presidency's focused on unemployment in June, came out with a whole lot of numbers that we needed to focus on. Why was it important? He gave us a target of 8 million jobs that needed to be reached. And then as we moved after the KwaZulu-Natal unrest and the Gauteng unrest in July, we moved into September and October. And in October, the women of our country asked that, that there be a women's assembly called. And so the president called a Women's Economic Assembly on the 6th of October to address the critical issue in terms of underrepresentation of women in all sectors of our economy. So it wasn't only about agriculture, it covered the automobile industry, energy, mining, the whole range, finances, you name it, the financial institutions. Women were calling on the presidency to make some changes so that we can participate in the economy more actively. Then interestingly enough, on the 20th of October, following the Women's Assembly, he then called a group of entrepreneurs and SMME owners together to say, we really need to address this issue of jobs, and how do we address jobs basically through SMMEs? And he then engaged with these entrepreneurs and SMME owners, and there were a couple of resolutions that then came out of that meeting, and I'll share them with you as we go along. So let's look first at the jobs challenge. Many of you who are my age might not be paying particular attention to the jobs challenge, but certainly if you've got children and if you're young people on this call today, it must be something that must be worrying you terribly. So if we look at our stats in our country, you know, 74% of our under 35-year-olds are unemployed, and 54% of those who are older than 35% are also unemployed. So we have a crisis. Our country is facing a crisis. And that's why the presidency asked for 8 million jobs to be created this year. So that was in June, and we are already in October, going into November. So one wonders how many jobs we've actually created. Obviously, COVID hasn't made things much easier, and our unrest in KwaZulu-Natal didn't make it easier for any of us in our province. And we believe as Kwanalu, and I've spoken to a whole range of people, and all our speakers on our webinar today believe the same, that our rural towns and our rural areas offer us the greatest opportunity to, in fact, create jobs and create and develop and assist entrepreneurs in their businesses. And one of the interesting things that came out of some of the discussions that happened in June was that, I think it was on an ABSA webinar, that somebody said that this is a major crisis, this unemployment crisis, that will impact every one of us in every aspect of our lives and cost our country dearly as we go forward. So it's not an issue that we can ignore. So I have spoken about the 8 million jobs. And as many of you who do know me, it's much easier for me to understand things simply. 8 million just looks like a number that's far too big for me to understand. So we looked at breaking this down into smaller bits. So what does that mean? Well, that really means that 22,220 people have to be employed every single day for a year to reach that target. Well, again, that figure and that whole idea boggled my brain. So we then thought, well, let's get something that we can all think about in our brains. And it's about business creation. It's about entrepreneurs creating businesses, employing people. And so we came up with a figure of 2,220. We need to establish that many people, that many businesses every day in our country. And those little businesses need to employ between 5 and 10 people. That we could get our head around. And that is one of the reasons why we set up our WYRE program. So we moved on then to the dear president and the Women's Assembly, and the women really gave it to him. They didn't hold back at the Women's Assembly. The president got it through loud and clear. And he was able to hear that the women called for inclusion of women across all sectors. The women exceed in terms of men in number in the country, and that we're poorly represented in all the sectors. 37% of women are unemployed, and women are paid 76% less than men in a monthly median salary comparison. And that is absolutely unacceptable. And then the women reminded the president, don't forget, Mr. President, who looks after the children in this country? And there were some stats that were then mentioned in terms of how the women are the majority caregivers for children in our country. And obviously, out of all of this, there was a call for some fundamental social transformation, and that this involves women. And then there were 6 things that came out of the president's Recona. He called for the upskilling of and a focus on upskilling women. He called for this could be done generally, it could be done specifically. He asked for an increase in women-owned enterprises. He called for decent jobs for women. He asked, and this is where we are completely focused and we're in the right area for the president, township and rural development integration to promote rural women opportunities. He asked the government to enable the environment for SMMEs, and that was the next meeting that he held. And then he said, look, after listening to everybody's presentations, he said, what about parallel opportunities? And don't we have that perfectly in agriculture? We've got the parallel relationship between agriculture and mining. We've got agriculture and automobiles. And you might say, oh, Kathy, what has agriculture got to do with motor cars? For goodness sake. Don't forget that we're going into a circular economy time. Everybody's speaking about green energy, copper's about to start, and we can utilize the biomass from agriculture to put together car seats, car doors. There's a whole range of opportunities that exist between agriculture and the automobile industry. And of course, agric and green energy, that goes without saying. We would be a wonderful supplier of energy onto the grid. Looking just at what did the guy say after the session with the entrepreneurs, and the thing that everybody finds the most onerous as entrepreneurs is this regulatory environment. We seem to be overwhelmed. It weighs down on our heads that we have these burdensome regulations. And so there was a call then by the entrepreneurs that there be a Startup Act created, or else they need to look at amending the National Small Enterprises Act. And this is like music to my ears. They were asked about providing tax breaks. They were asked about incentives to encourage investment. Simplifying, oh my goodness, anybody in a small business who can actually understand and is able to share in terms of their tax regulations, their VAT regulations, without an expert coming in to help you, they have my complete admiration. They looked at some taking away restrictions on visas, removing barriers that stop us from bringing in talent. And of course, why should we not participate in globalization? And a call from the Black organizations who attended that meeting to please let's look at how this BEE thing goes forward. So that was also a very interesting outcome. And so that then gave us a lot to think about. We'd already started working on our WYRE, but a lot of the ideas that we've had, and they came from people that we've consulted and shared their ideas with us, we then brought that, and ironically, they were in fact completely in line with what the president was asking us to do. And the basic premise, and particularly for all of you who've joined, who are agripreneurs, in other words, agriculture is the basis of your business activity, but I'm not excluding those of you who do other things, beading and crafting and weaves and admin support and bookkeeping. Those are equally important. But for us, particularly from the Kwanalu point of view, agriculture is the beginning and the end of everything that we do. And so coming through COVID, we've shown the country that agriculture stood firm. We've provided a very good return to our GDP. And we've also been able to obviously keep people in jobs, supporting obviously the farming activities, the families and the communities that then depend on agriculture. And so that for us is a very good foundation from which we can begin. But let's look at WYRE. So remember, it's women and youth. So we're not excluding our young men, but they must obviously be under 35. But it's all about rural entrepreneurship. It's about making sure that our entrepreneurs are able to get going, or they're able to strengthen their businesses. And so what is that key focus? And of course, the most important thing, you know, you can't stop talking about money these days. Money is something that occupies all our minds. So raising funds became a very important role for me to fulfill. And we do need to thank the various donors that we've received funds from to be able to kickstart this business. And so we're able to run the program independently of membership fees, etc., from our Kwanalu members, which has been wonderful. So we thank our donors, and they won't be mentioned at the moment, but we will do something specifically with them into the future. And then this launch of WYRE is a very important activity for us today, because not only did we have our 215 women register, and in some areas we believe there are more people sitting around the table listening to us today, but we're also going to use this opportunity to later send you a survey that will enable you to become part of all the programs and the projects and the training and the development that will take place as we go through the next couple of years. So we invited a whole range of people, and thank you very much for joining us. And out of all of this as well, we're going to be able to identify experienced businesswomen who we will be calling on in all our rural areas to be able to assist us in mentoring the business clusters that we will create in our rural towns. And so if you're on the have business training and you have some time to mentor new people coming into our sector, we would like to thank you, and you can obviously share your name with me later. We're looking at developing and strengthening entrepreneurs in rural towns. And how do you do that? It's really about making sure that we've got the skills and we've got the knowledge. And it's about, first of all, learning how to be self-disciplined. You heard from Sandy earlier on when she shared the key messages or the key principles in terms of an entrepreneurship journey. What do you need to be an entrepreneur? And one of the things she mentioned was discipline. So one of the trainings that we're going to start with, for example, this month with 2 groups is really about learning that self-discipline. Self-discipline starting with myself. How do I learn to manage myself, my finances, my community? How do I engage with them in a disciplined way? And then, of course, how do I manage a project to pay back into my community? Or how do I set up a business? Equally as important. It's about the business training. There will be some very serious business training that groups will be invited to attend, again, sponsored by a couple of foundations that are working with us. And then, of course, the mentorship training. And then there's a very interesting one that comes from the services CETA called New Venture Creation. It's the only accredited course in the entire CETA environment where they actually speak to entrepreneurial training. So New Venture Creation will be something that we'll also be supporting. And then, of course, the most important thing is that if you're a new entrepreneur or you're just starting off, we can't just drop you in the ocean and say, do enjoy your swim in the sea as a little fish. What we'd like to do is to make sure we are able to get you together in groups of little fishes so that you start being able to share and experience, share your knowledge and share your experience with each other, because the fundamental part of clustering is about strengthening each other through knowledge exchange and knowledge ideas. And so we will create those clusters. At this stage, we don't know whether we'll be virtual or whether we're going to be physical in terms of those hubs, but that's something else that we're working on at the moment. And then in time, some of the funders will be looking and calling for business plans in order to be able to participate a little bit more in some of the programs going forward. So just looking then at what are our building blocks, so that you've got a good idea about that. And that's just a very nice, easy picture on all of it. It's really about, first of all, establishing a platform to identify all of you. And this is the start of our platform. It's about upskilling and clustering, and I've spoken about that. But in all of our journey, Sandy spoke about it already this morning, have you got the mindset to be an entrepreneur? It's a very specific mindset. And just now when Nick starts sharing about his journey, and Nonhlanhla comes on board, and Ntuthu shares with us as well, you're going to be understanding some of the qualities that an entrepreneur needs, and by understanding some of their journeys. So have you got that mindset to become an entrepreneur? And then, of course, I've explained about the basic business training, the new venture creation, the clustering, but importantly to us, because this is what Kwanalu can do for you, which probably no organization could do. We can link you as agri-entrepreneurs, particularly if you are involved in our commodity members, if you want to become involved in our supply chain, we can link you into markets. And the tragedy of our unrest in July, in fact, we had some wonderful things come out of that tragedy. The partners we made, the people we met, and the people we were able to provide food to. But we were able to also link into some very interesting companies who are marketing virtually. And they're already starting to work with some of the people who will be on the panel today. So Nonhlanhla might share a little bit more in terms of the journey when she comes on board. So that's where we're at in terms of basically the 6 blocks of what we want to do. And then you might say to me, well, Kathy, what is this all for? Well, essentially, this is the impact, and this is only for 1 year. If we do our small program, we're really focusing on only training 665 people. So we will create 665 businesses during the course of the first year of the program. And amazingly, look at these jobs. So think about that big 8 million that the president asked us to think about, and think about your own circumstances as a young person. There are a lot of young people on the call today, and a lot of you will probably are unemployed. And this is speaking to your circumstances. Out of these businesses, we want you employed. Nick will speak later about local is lekker, about employing people in our own areas in order to be able to work in our rural economy. 3,325 jobs, only if 5 people are employed in each business. We could make that 6,650 jobs if 10 people are employed per business. And then when you look at the livelihoods impact, which is very important in our rural areas, 33,250 livelihoods impacted by the small project. And then, of course, everybody likes to look at the very big picture. What would those jobs mean for our country in terms of what would those jobs return to the economy of the country? And that's when we start going back to some of these boggling figures. Those 3,325 jobs will equate to 166 million rand for our economy, which is one of the reasons that we really have to focus on this project and this program and make it work in your rural areas. And so I'll stop my presentation now. I will share the next steps in the next section of the presentation. But I thank you very much for listening to me. And certainly, I wanted and made sure that there was a Q&A that went onto the program today, because it's not only about a few people's bright ideas. It's about all of our bright ideas in order to make sure that the program then services the need of our young people and our women in our rural areas. And so that then brings me to the end of my section. And then I have the honor of introducing my brother, Nick Nzama, who will be speaking to us next. And I will just do some good words for Nick before he tunes in and gives us his story. So basically, Nick is a child of the Valley of the Thousand Hills. So I was down there in the Thousand Hills yesterday, literally on the banks of Inanda Dam, meeting his people. And so Nick comes from the Thousand Hills. He now lives in the Outer West. He hasn't moved far from those Thousand Hills. He's still in his Thousand Hills. He became a very public figure, and if any of you go, I know all of you young people will be ready Googling his name and checking him out. But he has, in fact, risen to some prominence during the unrest that we had in July in KZN, and he'll share a little bit of that story with us. But he is a wonderful man. He's a family man. He's a man from the valley, as I mentioned. He's a strategist, always thinking ahead, a mediator, a facilitator, a businessman. And as Sandy was sharing the principles of entrepreneurship, I had a quiet chuckle to myself because I thought that's Nick Nzama in a nutshell. So he also leads an incredibly important program called Boys to Men. And that also is something that is very important in our society. It's aimed at assisting young men to be able to find their identities in this world of social media, cultural kind of clashes, and the drama that our young people find in our country. So, Nick, I'll turn over and leave the story to you. And thank you very much for being with us today. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. It's an honor for me to be here today. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Sometimes the virtual calls are a problem because sometimes you can think you're speaking to people and when you speak everywhere else, you're speaking to yourself. Am I coming out loud and clear?
Yes, thanks, Nick. We're all with you. So we haven't lost you. You're still a child of the valley and you connected beautifully. Thank you, Nick. We can hear you beautifully. Okay.
The video is disabled on my side, so I'm not able to activate video. I think it's from the host's side. But in any case, I'll shoot straight ahead. I'm Nick Nzama. I run an organization called Inspiration Institute, which I set up last year. Looking at all the work that I do in the communities, be it boys to men, be it outreach into schools, looking at values that drive our young people. And also, more importantly, looking at the struggles that are faced by entrepreneurs. One of the things that I've observed is that a lot of people don't share the journeys. We see a lot of people who've got riches, where else they don't share their journeys with young people. So our young people then aspire, or people predominantly, not just say young people only, but people then aspire to making it well in the world of business, whilst they are unable to actually say, so and so has made it, but how did they make it? So flaunting money, flaunting your riches, flaunting your success without sharing a story, I don't know what good it actually does in our society. If we want to build more entrepreneurs, we need to start sharing our journeys more so that the people following behind us can actually know what the do's and don'ts. In isiZulu, there's a saying that says, "Indlela ibuzwa kwabaphambili," which means those who have traveled the journey are the best people to tell or to give you directions. So if we do not give direction to the next generation or to the ones that come behind us, what are we expecting? What society are we trying to build? So this morning, I'll share a bit of my journey, how I've gotten to where I am. I was born to a single mother. My dad literally left me when I was in my mother's belly. And my mom raised me and my siblings, so I've got 4 of, very hard. So wherever she worked, she would take us with her. So she used to work as a maid, and eventually she settled down in a farm below Kesley College.
Nick,
yes,
sorry, it's Kathy. You can share your screen now with us. It's been enabled. Apologies for that. I think everybody needs to see you.
I think so. I thought so too, but it's still disabled. I'm trying to. Okay, let's wait for it.
Have a check, because on our side we're all clear to share your wonderful face today with us.
It says you cannot start your video because the host has disabled it.
Okay, all right. Apologies. We'll carry on. You carry on with your story.
We'll carry on, and then I'll keep trying.
Yes, apologies for that.
All right. So basically, we then my mom got a job in a chicken farm in 1983, and we started living with her in that chicken farm. I was 6, and we then it was actually quite an interesting experience. I learned to speak English at quite an early age, because the farmer that my mother worked for was a lovely man, Omen Cox, who taught me the basics from that young age of farming and business and entrepreneurship. And I learned English from him. I was a very inquisitive young man, and I've always been a dreamer. I've always dreamt big. So for me, I've always dreamt of becoming something big one day. And one of my dreams was to actually own the farm that my mom worked in. I said that one day I'll come back and buy this from you, saying to Omen Cox in those days. cut the long story short, then got an opportunity to get a scholarship to go to Kearsley in 1994. I was already in standard 8. So Kearsley College gave me an opportunity. I went and did my standard 8, 9 and matric at Kearsley College. And in that journey, again, I met some very interesting people who are still part of my life today. I do business with, and I interact with them at various levels. So when I got opportunities to grow even further in life, I then got an opportunity to work for Mr. Price, one of the companies I worked for. In Mr. Price, that's where I actually grew phenomenally, because I started as a flat packer. Flat packer are the guys that you find in aisles and within Mr. Price are folding clothing. So, but within 3 months, I became a store manager. Within 6 months, my store had become the best store in the country. And there was a guy called Patrick Kutsia. He was head of what you call people development at Mr. Price. So I then got roped into Mr. Price's human development division. And within that, that's when things started happening for me, because I started sharing what I was doing well in the shop. In my shop, what made my store grow, what made my store work versus others. And that's where I learned that I had actually public speaking talent. And then after that, myself and Patrick Kutsia went and started a company called Dream Builders International. From then onwards, I've done strategy and people development programs for companies like Shell, Mr. Prices. I've counted some various government departments, ESCOM and what have you, back in the days when there was still power and no load shedding in the country. So, my journey has been extremely interesting, from being a worker to being an entrepreneur. But what I've learned in my journey is that you need to know how to do the work before you manage doing the work. So for me, for any entrepreneur, I say whatever business you're wanting to start, you must be able to you must be able to do the work yourself before you manage the people that are doing the work. At least know the basics of it. So this whole journey then for me materialized well, or came together well, when the looting started in our area, because in 2017, God blessed me and I got the opportunity to buy a property which is about 2 minutes from the one that my mom used to work in. So I got a small holding, not far from the farm that my mom worked in, so in Assegai. So when the looting started happening in our area, I was able to engage the neighborhood watch and say, but as an entrepreneur, I can't sit back and watch people's businesses being destroyed. At the same time, as a Black person, I cannot watch other Black people being discriminated against, being stopped purely on the basis of their color. So we then came up with a program with the neighborhood watchers in my area. A program that meant that if we were going to be stopping people or we were going to be doing anything, it had to be on the basis of stopping criminality, not stopping people of a particular race. That program worked very well. We're able to stop looting by Tuesday in our area. If you go through Hillcrest and Potter's Hill, you will see that not much damage was done, except in the Waterfall area, where quite a lot of damage was done in the Bracken Hill area and the Watercrest Mall. But we were able to stop it from going any further by purely coming together, by bringing various people together around the table to talk and say, how do we stop it? So it was very interesting bringing people of different dynamics, but for me, it's something that I'm used to, which for other people, it was a first for them to be able to sit where you had taxi bosses sitting with neighborhood watch heads, sitting with business people, and the taxi people, as you all know, that they became the solution to the problem. But all of us understood very well that none of the white people in our area are white monopoly capital. And I always try and stress this whenever I'm speaking to an audience, that because we've suffered so much as a country, and especially Black people have gone through so much, there's a lot of stereotyping that ends up happening from white people towards Black people, and from Black people towards white people, and from Indians and versus Black people, whatever. for me, what is paramount is for us to understand some of these terms that are used in our society and some of these things. So I always make an example. I would say a white person who does business, who runs a small business just like me, is not white monopoly capital. White monopoly capital is what is referred to, should I say, as white monopoly capital, is big business that is 1% of business that actually literally runs the entire world, not just South Africa. It's not a problem that exists in South Africa. It exists all around the world. That's your top 1%. That is a problem for everybody. So who monopolize and make sure that they create barriers to entry into industries that other smaller players cannot actually penetrate the market. That is the problem. So if we, black and white, could actually learn to understand each other, what do we mean by what term? That is what the biggest problem when you look at looting, the biggest problem came from there. Because people wanted to categorize and box everybody. So the looters were basically destroying all the businesses that were supposed to be white monopoly capital business without understanding what is white monopoly capital. White people in certain neighborhoods were stopping all black people because they assumed that all these people were looters, were just going to loot. Even a person who was innocently going about their business. So that is what we need to stop. The stereotyping, the racial connotations, so that we can move forward, so that we can implement programs that develop this country. Whilst we have issues and things that say that classify people and want to box people into certain boxes, we are not going to make it. So if we want to make it, if we want to implement meaningful change-making, groundbreaking, pioneering programs, we need to remove the wool that actually has actually been laid upon our faces or our eyes. We need to start looking at things differently. We need to start approaching things differently. We need to approach each other as a people differently. We need to see humanity in each other. So that is why I'm in love with this program, because it wants to touch at the heart of the core issue, which is addressing people's hunger through creating employment, through creating entrepreneurs who are in turn creating businesses. Because if you ignore the SME sector, you will not make it. Any country's economic engine is not big business. Big business may control the narrative of the day, but small businesses, SMMEs, are the ones who actually have a bigger impact into any economy. And if we do not understand that, we are not going to make any difference. We are not going to make a single dent into the hunger that exists, into the unemployment, into the drug issues, into the crime, into even the GBV issues that exist in this country. Because a lot of issues revolve around economic empowerment. And true economic empowerment starts with creating sustainable SMMEs, looking at key sectors such as manufacturing, agriculture, which takes me to the next point, my next point, which is when you look at rural development and township economies, where do we need to start? Because I have a strong belief that currently government strategy and business sector strategy is flawed at the moment, because we are driving our people more and more into retail. How so? You ask me how so? The current strategy revolves around building malls and building retail outlets, which is basically creating more consumers out of our people. And consuming what? Goods that are made where? Goods that are made in China, goods that are made in Europe, goods that are made in the US. What are we making locally? How are we driving our manufacturing sector? What are we doing to drive those sectors to the next level? What if people that are currently getting into the agricultural space, into the food space, are we actually encouraging those people to say, once you have cultivated your goods, once you've planted and farmed your land, what do you then do? How do you then compete with goods that are coming from other countries that are being sold at a very low margin? Give you an example. My mother plants vegetables. She supplies to one of the local supermarkets in the Outer West. And on certain days, you'll find that she'll be supplying spinach or supplying goods. She'll take a van and deliver, and only to get to, when she gets to the shop, she'll be told that today you cannot invoice us R4 per bundle of spinach. You can only invoice us R1.50. Why? Because the price at the market had dropped, was lower today. How do you then create sustainability in our small scale farmers if you have that model that still works like that? Because then if she's got 100 bundles of spinach, having driven 30 kilometers to deliver that spinach, now when she delivers that spinach and now she has to sell it at R1.50 per bundle, that's 150. It merely covers the fuel that she delivered it at. So, but because she's already there, she's then forced to leave it there, otherwise she's traveled for nothing. What are we doing to these small farmers that we're creating? Are we then creating access to market? Are we then, how are we making sure that they are protected from goods that are coming from outside of this country that are flooding the market? I'm not just talking about spinach only, but how do we then make sure that the big guys are not doing what I was referring to earlier, blocking when it comes to barriers to entry? Sorry, let me just pause there for a second. Are we still not able to access video? It's actually talking to a blank screen is a bit...
Nick, yeah, we have corrected that. So try again.
I am trying. Let me just try something quickly. 1 second. Just everybody just give me a second.
No, we're all hanging on your words. So even if you go out and come back in, we will be hanging here waiting for you. Do you want to try that?
I think let's try it.
There we go. Thanks, everybody. Quickly have a sip of tea, drink a glass of water while we just wait for Nick to return.
Well, it's still telling me the same thing. Okay, let's just carry on then. It's still telling me I can't use video. It's disconnected. All right, it's fine. Let's carry on.
Yes, apologies, Nick. So everything's on our side, and we should be seeing you. We are seeing your face, but obviously we're just seeing the one. Here we go. There we go. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. You're on screen. There we go. Okay, fantastic. Now everyone can see you. Thank you and apologies.
All right, no problem. Right. So as I was saying, that access to market is very key for SMMEs, because we can help people start businesses. And a lot of people, the biggest problem is barriers to entry and market access. So the biggest problem that any entrepreneur faces, besides everything else, you know, in our area now, after the looting, what I did is then we formulated a group called the Outer West Business and Community Initiative. We've then engaged all the business forums in our area. And, you know, once you start speaking business forums, people get a bit edgy, especially business people from my white counterparts were getting a bit edgy when I say, let's go and meet the business forums, because the engagement and the narrative that has existed about business forums so far has been about these guys who go and stop projects at gunpoint and say, no, we want 30%, we demand our local content and what have you. When we had the 4 meetings that we've had with the business forums in our area, Wat 2, Wat 103, Wat 8, and Wat 9, which covers the area of Kwanyuswa, Emakatini, Mbongzolosi, and Molweni. The guy said, what we need is mentorship. What we need is help with marketing our products and our brands, which comes in the form specifically of networking. And they said, more than anything else, we need assistance with market access. No one prepped them and no one told them anything. So most of the white business people that I had taken into these meetings came away saying, but Nick, where do these guys come from? Because this is not what we are told. This is not what we read through the media. This is not what we've been made to believe that Black business people from townships and from valleys are looking for. We thought these guys were going to be demanding our businesses and demanding this. And I said, guys, that is exactly the problem. The narrative in this country, we rely so much on media outlets that drive and have a particular narrative of selling their media space, which is not always selling the vision of rebuilding this country and taking this country to where it's supposed to be. So we need to understand what the needs, proper needs and true needs are. That is why for me, I was super excited when I saw this program, and more importantly, when Kathy told me how she wanted to approach it, and even more so seeing it happen, that before you even implement, she's gone into the communities and engaged the communities to understand what their needs are. Before you come and say, we want to implement this program, but you want to understand what is the need. Because one of the biggest issues is that a lot of solutions are imposed on our people without understanding what do our people actually need. So if this program has got this approach of actually understanding first, what do the people need? What is the need? What is this? Is it skills? Is it resources? And if it's resources, what resources? You know, so you guys are on the right approach. You guys are on the right track in terms of this program, and we need more programs like this. So going back into the journey of an entrepreneur, the challenges that most entrepreneurs face, as I've said, it's market access, it's resources. A lot of organizations that are out there that are said to represent or fund entrepreneurs actually are not entrepreneur friendly. Give you a typical example. During COVID, government came up with the rescue packages, and they took those rescue packages and they gave them to commercial banks to say, if you need help, go to a commercial bank. Now you go to a commercial bank and you request a rescue package because your business is struggling because of COVID. What is the first thing the bank requires out of you? Is for you to be in good standing. Now, if you understand that before COVID hit, the country was already in recession. So why would I be approaching a bank for assistance if I'm in good standing? So it means that the help that is there is for people that are already, that don't have problems, quite frankly, people that do not have issues. So we need to understand when we raise funding and when we look at issues of how to help young people, how to help business people, we need to understand a lot of issues, key issues that actually have crippled entrepreneurs, that have crippled our people. And if you are then saying, I can only help you if you're in good standing means you don't even have a debit order that is bounced. So if already I'm in trouble, why am I looking for help? So a lot of people have the problem. And now speaking directly to entrepreneurs, whether you're young or old, one of the biggest problems that has actually hindered me in business is debt. It's a credit history. Your credit history is like gold. If I speak to any entrepreneur, I say, if you cannot buy it cash, then wait until you've saved up for it. Because most of these accounts that when your child finishes matric and they're going to varsity, these lenders now are even targeting students. You get offered accounts left, right, and center. So by the time you start working, you've got this account that you're now paying, whether it's a clothing account or whatever. You've got this debt for something that you can't even see anymore, something that you've used. You know, even food outlets now are offering food on credit. I mean, you eat it, you drop it, whatever, and it's gone. You can't point at it. It's not an asset that you've bought on credit that you can say, when things don't go right, I can sell this asset and actually have money to settle the debt or to take myself to the next level. Let us try by all means to avoid doing things on credit, because one of the first thing that any lending institution will look at for your business proposal, when you're doing your business proposal and your business plan, they obviously look at your credit history, your spending history, and even how you use your business bank card. If you're swiping your card at ShopRite Checkers, swiping it at Pick and Pay, and wherever, KFC, Nando's, and whatever, they look at that and you look like a reckless spender. Those are the things that have actually affected me personally, mistakes that I've made in business, that I'm saying, do not make those mistakes. Watch out for those little things. When somebody gives you their funding, when somebody gives you their money, they don't want to see a transaction for Nando's there constantly. Yes, maybe one now and again when if you are entertaining clients or whatever, but it must not be a recurrence and something that is ongoing. Because it is pointless for us to go out there and tell you, start businesses, do this, do that, without telling you what not to do. And without advising you with these little nuggets, and yes, there are big things that we can advise you with, but the best things are the smallest things that are within your control. That you can say 1, 2, 3, I will not do, because if I do that, I'm damaging myself in the future. Pay yourself a salary when your business can afford it. Pay everything else. Pay all your suppliers first. Then create a separate bank account where you pay yourself a salary. Then you can use money from that salary account. But if you're going to be using the bank's card, the banking institutions and any lender out there and anybody who wants to see you, when they ask for your financials, your bank statements, whatever, they see so much money being used, you just look like a reckless spender, even though it might be justified, even though you might have valid expenses that you might be looking at spending on. So let us look at our own behaviors for, as well, as much as we can be looking at the system, because I always say it is very easy to challenge the system. It's very easy to challenge it, but it's difficult to change it. It is difficult to challenge this system within yourself, challenge yourself, but it's easier to change yourself. It's difficult to change that system, but it's easy to challenge it. It's difficult to challenge this system, but it's much easier to change it. So let us challenge ourselves first before we challenge the world, because it's easier to change our own behavior. And if each and every one of us changes our behavior and does the right things, and we will then be on the right track. And especially when it comes to creating businesses, we need to start creating businesses, and that will become legacy businesses. We need to start creating entrepreneurs that will outlive, entrepreneurship opportunities that will outlive us. We need to start creating businesses that will outlive. When I say a legacy, I say nowadays that the amount of money I spent as an entrepreneur, because I used to make an excuse that I grew up poor, therefore I deserve a fancy car, I deserve a fancy clothing, a nice cell phone, a nice this and a nice that. There are so many mistakes that I've made where I've misused money. At a certain point, I drove a Maserati, and I'm asking myself, I was paying 25,000 Rand a month for what? For what? What does it do for my business? What does it do? Because all it does, it strokes my own ego. As business people, we need to start looking at those things and say, we shall not do those things. When somebody trusts you with money and invests in you, spend that money wisely. And each and every opportunity that is given unto you, use the opportunity in a way that the funder will say, you know what, this person is trustworthy with small things. Let me trust them with even bigger things. Whatever training opportunity that is given unto you, use that opportunity in a way that will inspire anybody else that is looking at you and say, I will go to the ends of the earth to find funding for this person, because they deserve a shot. They deserve an opportunity. People are tired of the begging mentality. Everybody going around with the begging bowl saying, I need. People are now looking for people with the right attitude so that they can empower them. Have the right attitude. Have an attitude that is showing that you are hungry for knowledge. You are hungry to be empowered. Let us see your actions rather than hearing your words, because anybody nowadays can speak the right language, but it's about doing the right things, doing the right deeds, making a difference in your own local community. God, I always say, even God does not bless a drum. I always make that example, that a drum holds water in, but you must rather be a hose pipe, because water goes through a hose pipe. It makes sure that it channels it into different directions and different places. Be a hose pipe. When you receive whatever blessings you receive, bless others. Don't hold on to things. Don't hog information. Pass on information so that we are able to create and plant trees, that the shade of those trees, the next generation will sit under. That is the mentality we need to have. And especially, I always say this, as Black people, we need to start learning the idea of generational wealth. I'll end with this story. An Australian tourist is walking through the streets of Chinatown, and whilst walking, he sees a tattoo shop. And in this tattoo shop, he sees a list of tattoos. One of them is written, "Born to Lose." So he's baffled. He's really mind-boggled. He walks into the tattoo shop and he sees the Chinese man who's the tattoo artist, and he says to him, "Are these tattoos that can be done or tattoos that have been done?" The tattoo artist says something to him. He says, "These are tattoos that have been done." So he says, "Are you telling me that there is a person in their right mind at some point in their life who's walked in here and written a tattoo on their own body, born to lose?" And the tattoo artist says something very profound. He says, "Yeah, maybe one, maybe two, maybe three." And he says that the tourist then says, "But what kind of person would want to tattoo on their own body, born to lose?" The response is, he then says to him, "Tattooed on mind long before tattooed on body." Why am I telling you the story? There are a lot of things that are tattooed into our minds as a society in South Africa, through the media, through the apartheid system, through the people who don't want to see this country succeed, through people who don't want to see us unified. It is time we start saying, what is tattooed on our mind? Because those things are the things that are very same things that we end up tattooing on our bodies. Those are the very same things that end up defining our actions. So watch what you get allowed to be tattooed in your mind. I will end it there, and thank you very much for the time.
Oh, thank you, Nick. If we could all stand up and go hallelujah, amen, I think we would be doing that immediately. Some of those lessons for anyone who's on our webinar today who have got children, I think some of those lessons that you shared at the end of the conversation are absolutely profound. And I think it doesn't matter what age you are, we can definitely be doing with removing some of the tattoos from our brains, that's for sure. So thank you. I think that you've left, I was writing so many things down, I couldn't keep up with myself, some of the things that you were saying when you spoke to us today. So just to everybody out there, the 36 people who are on our webinar at the moment, please just capture your questions. And if they're for Nick, we will be able to ask Nick, if he's still with us towards the end of the webinar, to answer some of these questions with us. All right, so thank you, Nick. And so you can now stop worrying about the video and you can have a cup of tea. And thank you very much for sharing your story with us today. I mean, it's just sort of profound. But we're now going to move on to our next speaker. And I found on this journey with WYRE that I have been able to reconnect with the most wonderful people along the way. And, for each of you sitting here today, don't ever lose touch with interesting people that you meet as you grow in your working career or in your business career. And that's why I'm particularly honored to have Ntuthu Mbiko-Motshegoa with us today, because she has also traveled a most interesting journey, and it's always interesting how conversations link together. So some of the issues that Nick was explaining or identifying in his talk, Ntuthu will speak about, because in Ntuthu, we've now got, and we're moving into a cattle farmer. She's a cattle farmer in her own right, which is absolutely brilliant. But she also is involved in the global stage in terms of entrepreneurship, particularly agri-entrepreneurship. So she has been very fortunate in her journey to be able to get involved in the policy environment, not only locally, but also internationally. So she brings a wealth of experience to our webinar today. But in the heart of hearts, we all champion the same things: active participation, looking for sustainable programs for women in agribusiness, and particularly interested in the biodiversity economy. She has got some very solid business networks, and certainly is, just like I am, a firm believer in partnerships and collaborations. So, for example, on Sunday night, I tuned into my usual Sunday Twitter spaces in the evening to find out what all the young Black entrepreneurs are thinking and doing out there. And no sooner had I tuned into my Twitter space when Ntuthu says, "Hello, Kathy." And fortunately, she was a panelist on Sunday, and she says, "Could you please give Kathy a chance to speak, and there I was on a panel on Sunday evening talking agriculture, talking about startup business with Ntuthu, and so I'm so pleased that she was able to join us today. So Ntuthu, I'll hand over to you. You've got the stage, the virtual stage, to share your journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Thanks for sharing that story. Unfortunately, I can't do the video as well. It's giving me the same error message that the host has stopped it. But that's fine. I can assure everyone that we are not talking with the ghost. Let me ride on the protocol that has been established and greet everyone. It's already a huge honor and a great privilege to learn and add value on these kind of conversations. A little bit of story to that. When we met with Dr. Kathy, we were also at our own Chisanyama, kind of in 4 ways, I think, where we were actually tasting a grass-fed meat through our common associate and also demonstrate the importance of technology in as far as traceability is concerned. And I think since then, we've been really sharing a common breathing space in different social networks. And our presence here also demonstrates that the collaboration spirit in our collective efforts to extract value from the larger part of the population, which is women. Sorry, I got stuck there. Which is women, and also changing our livelihood as women and achieve the inclusion for the growth of the sector. It is also encouraging to hear Dr. Hurly's alignment with Kwanalu, which I'm part of, leading the agricultural sector. So my contribution today is very exciting because it enables me to talk about something that I can relate to as a female entrepreneur myself. Some of the challenges are very unique, right, to us as women, given all sorts of social and cultural norms associated with being a female participant in the industry. However, most of my contribution will really apply to all genders. What it means, where do you start, and what does it entail? And I just want to remind everyone that all findings, by the way, because at times I find it difficult to kind of, excuse me, justify our relevance as women entrepreneurs in the sector. So all our findings are pointing to one direction. Pay attention to the value that women are bringing on the sector, right? For the contribution towards the economic growth of the sector, which is agriculture, and also towards the GDP of our country. So I thought I should just remind you that, because sometimes it feels like, oh, they just want to bring the black gender along or the white gender along. No, it's not about that. It's about the inclusion towards achieving the bigger goal, right? So being an entrepreneur, just like any type of business, start with you. I mean, all the speakers have alluded to that. Your mindset, your commitment, discipline, credibility, and all the responsibility that comes with running the business. So it is a very learn as you grow, costly and challenging experience. So being resilient comes with the territory, and the passion will keep you going. CEO spoke a lot about what exactly passion means. So once you have the edge to start, just do it, no matter how small it is. Identify your arable capabilities of your area, which could be crops or animal products that grow well within your proximity. KZN prouds itself with wetlands in certain areas, proud itself with most arable capable areas, including rice and sugar, with your high-end value crops in as far as agriculture is concerned. So as much as you plant for household consumption, you are also practicing for a larger enterprise. So whatever that you choose to start with, make sure then that you understand the market demand, because when you are ready to exploit those markets, then you should be able to understand how to grow this commodity. Understand the consumption patterns and the market demand, right? This will help you to also pace up your growth and identify profitable commodities when you are ready to enter the bigger markets, like I said. And I'm using bigger markets because much as we have commercial markets, with everyone focuses on, and of course they come with larger volumes, we have also informal markets with the same volumes. I don't want to argue about the word of formal and informal today, but this is how it is in the context of our country. So bear in mind that the very same informal market are the market that is also being exploited by the formal markets, because that's where they make most of the money. So you need to pay attention to that in the agricultural sector. So your backyard garden is always your best bet for consumption purposes, right? Because you're exercising there. So based on your research of market demand, you can start growing crops, chickens, or small stock like sheep and goats and pigs. You know, goats are selling like hot cakes in KZN. So you'd want to consider that. Start with farming activities with a short cycle to harvest, like broiler chickens, pigs, green pepper, spinach, mushrooms, based on the knowledge acquired from your market research. The reason why I'm saying that, you wouldn't want to start, for instance, with cattle, because it will take up to 18 months for you to even break even and start generating profit. But also, you might also want to utilize something that, you know, I grew up in Tanzania in a township, and my mother was always part of what you call stokvel. English would be crowdfunding or umkholiswane. So my business enterprise started with that funding concept, where then I joined this umkholiswane, but instead of buying whatever that other people were buying, I decided, let me go to the auction, let me understand what's going on there. And I think that also was informed with my love of meat. I love meat. You know, when you see me, I'm as big as anything else in this world, because I love meat. And also I'm coming from the background where my grandparents, in their own way, they were literally small-scale farmers and farming with everything. So that was instilled at a young age in terms of the business acumen, because my parents were in business as well, so as my grandparents. So you must also pay attention to your surroundings in terms of what motivates you, who's influencing your decision in as far as your capabilities are concerned. Yeah? So it is also important to understand the seasons associated with the crops you have identified. However, some are all year-round crops. Take note of the weather patterns due to climate change and find ways to unleash your innovative mindset. Previous speakers also alluded to this. So in essence, play around certain ideas and try them. In the process, you might just discover and invent something out of this world that you are looking for as a solution. Né? But you also have to be mindful of unexpected man-made disasters like veld fires, unrest, looting, and theft. And I want to talk about a few things during the unrest, right? When the unrest occurred, I was part of the team that was gathering farmers affected as part of my safety and security of the farming community advisory role within the police ministry. So you can imagine, I spent sleepless nights hearing particularly women who were screaming because they had nowhere to go. I mean, they were the most affected. You can imagine most of the farmers are in remote areas, so the situation was bad. And it looks like some of the people that were looting, they could quickly identify their sort of low-hanging fruits where they know that perhaps these are women, yeah, it's a corporate. So they really took advantage of that. And the sad thing about this is when we try to measure and quantify the loss, I know the previous speaker spoke about this, the 50 billion that is estimated out there only talks to the formal sector. So part of the process that I'm busy with now is to measure and quantify the loss that small-scale farmers has really endured. And that also means the food chain participants in the township. You know, umama that would be selling chicken livers in a cup or in a spoon, the woman that would be selling 1 banana or 2 bananas. In terms of food security and the agricultural value chain, those are active participants. Those are people who keep the community thriving in their local value chains. And also the issue there is also help them to understand how to quantify their loss, because from them they see that I've lost 2 bananas. But then you must also assist them to say, while losing the 2 bananas, how much has it affected your income and how are you surviving? So that you have targeted intervention in terms of support in as far as that area is concerned. So we're quite battling with that because they also couldn't really quantify in 6 months' time, where would your business be if you didn't lose? And now that you've lost, how are you trying to resuscitate your business? So I'm really paying attention to the so-called informal sector so that we can have a way of getting back them on the business. Now, you need to also keep records of each and every detail of your farming activities. That will not only help you when you apply for funding. And I always say, when you start with your own money, you have the opportunity to do all these embarrassing mistakes that I did as well when I was growing my business. Because it's your own money, there's a little bit of entitlement that you have to work on. But however, how it helps you is that when you are ready to entertain investments in your own enterprise, you've kind of cut off all the silly mistakes. Sometimes you really get excited, even if you are not poor. When things are not going well, the only thing that you will say, you'll be like, it's my own money after all. Can't I at least have a cup of coffee at Magenville or whatever way you choose to go? Because you want to make yourself feel better. I know those are silly mistakes, and which you can then have a way to avoid them, because in return they cost you, right? And then you then have a size of area utilized. It means much as it is your back garden, you need to be able to understand how big is this site so that you understand all the inputs and costs required for your farming activities. This record keeping will also enable you to measure effort. Remember, you put your effort, right? Including the investment, your personal investment that you've done there as a startup capital, and then compare that with the outcome and the profit associated with that outcome. You then need to also understand the time you're spending in your garden or with your animals. This will also help you to pay your staff accordingly when you are ready to do so. Let's say in a year's time, you are ready to employ 8 people. So for each and every activity, you'll be able to remunerate them as such, because you know exactly time spent or allocated to that particular activity. So parallel to that, as you are doing all these backyard experiences, associate yourself with like-minded people, including those who are experienced. The previous speaker said, that it doesn't get better than that. You will need those expertise, right? Spend your time wisely for the benefit of your farming activities. This must be your closest person, if it was a person next to you. Allow yourself to gradually grow, because it's a learn as you grow, costly exercise, so we are bound to lose money. That one you can't run away from. As much as I keep on insisting on the money issue, now you have the regulatory framework that is, or certain policies that is associated with having a good commitment towards opening up the sector to startups and have developmental funding in terms of the approach that you need, because these are the people, perhaps sometimes they have nothing, but they have the skill. Are you able then, say, to quantify that skill and say, in the absence of having and money in terms of investment, can I appreciate the value and the expertise that you're bringing and your passion and your commitment, and see how best can we relax the funding, right, model that we have, so that it can talk to the needs of your targeted beneficiaries on the ground. Reflect and pick up areas of improvement, right? So that you can measure and quantify your growth. Now, this is to women. Be aggressive in your approach. You literally have to. I get excited. Men don't play. I always say they're very aggressive in their approach. So like previous speakers have said, you must be hungry for success. Have a go-getter mentality. Don't allow any distraction. And I'm going to put it loud out there. Having marriage, much as I'm not against it because I'm married, it's part of the distractions. So you won't win making it very big in the business while growing kids and while also nurturing marriage. So there are certain serious, honest decisions that you have to make. And that also depends on the kind of supporting partner that you have. That is very important, because that aggressiveness, sometimes people confuse it, especially with women, confuse it with arrogancy. You're not going to get it right if you're going to go with a begging tone. That begging tone must not only be for the sake of investment within your family structure, They must know we are not begging to do business. This is what you want, and this is what you need to do. Anyone who's going to box you in a little corner as if you're just a woman that is supposed to do something else other than business, that is a distraction. So you need to attend to that very carefully. Be ruthless with your time, meaning spend most of your time looking for information and get new ideas. I've already spoken to a support system because your peace of mind is very important. It's literally very important. Remember, you're also a strategist here. So you are not going to be able to strategize the business while the water is boiling there because you must make coffee because the on-laws have arrived. These are the conversations that you must very be sincere about them, because as much as perhaps they might have booked time that they're coming, but when there's an opportunity that needs your attention as the owner of the business, you have to leave those spots. Unfortunately, that is it. Because you want to avoid anything that consumes you or have negative impact on you. Use social media wisely for your own benefit. This talks to the brand awareness. This talks to the self-discipline that was already alluded to. Bear in mind that you are your own brand. So avoid situations that might affect your integrity at all costs. Don't just comment anyhow on certain issues. You will never know who's reading, right, or watching. That is on the social media now. So in fact, it shouldn't even be about who's watching. It should come naturally as part of being a responsible person. Even in social gatherings, you as a brand is a very important component of your business. Here, an example, perhaps I'm older, perhaps I might sound jealous because I can't put perhaps Savannah on my head. But if I've seen you as a young woman carrying Savannah, much as it was a social life with your money, when you come to me and say, I'm looking for funding on my business, already I have that picture of you, right? So this is where then kind of creating a balance and be self-aware of the brand that you are carrying. Because remember, much as we look at the product, we also look the brand, which is you as a business owner. How do you behave yourself out there? So be careful of such. Be ready to be an all-rounder. You strategize, you plan, you source, you implement, you even clean, you manage, you literally do everything when you're a startup. You can't afford to outsource certain things. So when you reach a level of the markets that you want to exploit, again, being it formal or informal, because the ultimate goal is to run a profitable business. Formal markets are wrapped with all sorts of regulation and standards, which means laws and compliance that comes with being a role player in the formal space, which, by the way, we are busy paying attention to, because these are some of the key barriers in as far as the inclusion is concerned in the context of South Africa. So when you are ready now, you want to consider larger land access. You might want to lease or purchase. Now in KZN, you are fortunate because that's the only kingdom that owns land. So it means that there in your proximity, you want to negotiate land because you're growing your business, right? Now you have an opportunity to expand. You need to pay attention to the water access issue, whether it's licensed, whether it's boreholes. Make sure that you have adequate water that will be associated with the farming activities. The security is a definite one. You need to make sure that there's the security that is protecting you and your farmer from stock theft, from murderers, from everything. And I always say, much as we hear most of these farm murderers happen in some other part of the countries, there's a lot of farm murderers and GBV happening within the farming community and the farmers. So I'm one of those people who's paying attention to that because there's a loud voice there. You hardly see it on the news, and it's happening in numbers every day. Environmental impact assessment, what you commonly call EIA, will help you, particularly now that there's strict biosecurity standards that you need to adhere to. Beekeeping, tax compliance, labor law. Sorry, it looks like I can start my video. So just give me a second. Okay, it's there finally. Thank you. So labor law, and also pay attention to the tech-savvy business. We're in the agri-tech space now, which I'm also championing as part of my role as an ambassador between EU and Africa, where we are bringing investment to invest on the agri-technology for the benefit of gender inclusion. And you need to also pay attention to the trade standards, which vary based on various commodities. Now, those trade standards also talk to the export and import markets. We are not there. We are not there. I'm also serving on the World Trade Organization, looking after agriculture and the Agri-Trade Forum in the country. The issue there is that our participation there must be enhanced by the comprehensive support that we get from our own country, so that we're able to exploit those opportunities for the sake of the growth of the sector. I would always say that, because at times people don't understand why must we be involved. And it's not just a matter of just aiding Mololo. Capable people and responsible people must be able to be developed to participate on that space. Also pay attention to your value-added project, right, which now talks to agro-processing. It also has its own compliance, packaging, cold chain standards depending on your product. Now, be open to partnership that will bring value to your business without competing with you. What does that mean? Identify people that will complement you. At this point, you've done your SWOT analysis, you understand your strength. So when you are looking for a partner, pay attention to understand, is this the right partner for my business? Is this person going to add value on my business? And that means you'd also have to release some of the shares for the growth of the company. And understand the skills that you can afford to outsource. What do I mean by that? Bookkeeping, you might want that person very close to your business. Someone who understands contracts and laws and logistics. Those are the key enablers in as far as your business is concerned. So you'd want to consider having them next to you without sourcing them. Admin, obviously, you can outsource that. Your vet services, you can outsource that. So be able to understand what is it that I cannot afford to lose within my company. And gather, obviously, a team that will complement you. Now, the most important part, work to please your boss. I always say, when you're growing a business, at times, now, this is my personal experience, I'll forget that I own the business. Because in my mind, the business was the customer. That was my big boss. I was accountable to the boss. So as much as I owned it, the real boss was the person that I'm giving my product to, whether informal or not. Here's an example of the informal. Part of my business when I went to the AFAL, right, within the visibility of the value chain, was also selling to the street vendors, Omama, Ababatengisa, Uluso on the street. Now that's my informal customers. If there were any delays to those customers, I would literally mess up their whole day, because all their customers, particularly truck drivers in the morning that want pap and liver, don't get their liver. So that customer was as important to me as Pick n Pay and other hotels, which were my former customers, right? Be consistent. That's very important. And stick to agreed terms, like delivery terms and product specification. Don't commit to what you can't deliver. A perfect example here is that when you go to a formal sector, they would want to indicate all the volumes that they need. You would want, I remember at some point I was stuck with 16 tons of beef at a particular mine, but I was honest with them. There's no way that as a startup you can be able to supply 16 tons. So it's important that you are honest with what you can do and what you can do. And they must also allow you to grow so that you understand their procurement processes clearly, right? Don't wait for the boss to complain, that customer now, which is the voice. Allocate time to check if you're still on the right track, if they're still happy with the product, are there any areas of improvement? They will tell you. Negotiate pricing without compromising your business. Don't be a price taker. There are so many things that perhaps some of our customers don't understand, especially the formal sector. Sit down with them, make them understand. As much as you are not used to price, this is my price, and this is what informs the price, right? Negotiate the payment terms. much as it's difficult, but find a way to negotiate. Remember the aggressiveness, this is what also you must use here. Negotiate. The payment terms of 30 days is going to close your business. Payment terms of 7 days will close your business. So this is the maximum that you can take. Remember, when you source, you are paying cash. For me, most of the abattoirs and everywhere what I was sourcing, some would even want the money to appear on their business account before they can even consider delivering. So have that conversation with your customers that 7 days actually much as I'm accepting it, but it's killing my business, right? And don't be desperate for business. It talks to that level of negotiating your payment terms, and always aim for the competitive edge. Competitive edge is what will differentiate you from other suppliers that they're sourcing from. So work on mastering that all the time, right? Help the big boss to grow as well, because by offering more products that will enhance their business, you are growing in the space as well. So help them to understand the need to try products from your offering. The last one, really, be humble, but remain assertive and focused. I have a little story here. One of my stores that I was servicing was a Pick and Pay somewhere in Soweto. So I get in there with the driver. Obviously, I wouldn't look like this when I'm doing deliveries. I look like, obviously, a farmer, a clean farmer, though. I'm in overalls and all that. So I'm getting there. It's around 4:45. I'm a bit late. So the security guard is busy cleaning the delivery area. So the gentleman said to me, she's spraying me with the hose pipe because she's cleaning. So it's his way of saying, I don't have time for you, I'm busy closing. And she said, you must tell your boss that she must send you to deliver on time. So I tried to explain, look, I got delayed there and there and the traffic and all that. I said, no, I don't want to entertain that. Tell your boss. Obviously, there's no way that I would say I'm the boss, because I don't carry the boss mentality. But a few weeks later, I come again and deliver. I happen to meet the owner of the store. And then the owner said, oh, Ntuthu, you came now in person as well. And I was like, oh, I do this often, these routine checks and be with my driver and understand the customer's needs. So you can imagine the look of the security man who was telling me to tell the boss. And he was there. Obviously, I still respect him. I didn't rub it in because I could see it was embarrassing already, because he's invited now to have coffee with his boss. So that's the kind of humility and assertiveness that I'm talking about, because at the time, what I was interested in is to get my product in the shelves. Him thinking that I'm not a boss or spraying me with water was not going to take away anything for me. I have to focus on what I need to do. But importantly, you need to have a lift as you rise mentality. The previous speaker emphasized that you need to remember, much as you were growing, you started this on your own. Someone made a legal decision that, can we take Ntuthu to this level? So that's how you grow. Someone will open a legal door, some other doors might not be closed. And actually, in essence, one of the things that I've picked up is that those doors were closed for me, because I never got funding from any, even the bank, because I don't have collateral, I'm leasing the land, I'm not owning it. Some of the doors that were closed kept me pushing and kept me hungry for more. And this is how I even end up having a development role, because I remember when I didn't even know that the organization or anything like that. I was just doing my own thing. But because people kept on closing, they've literally contributed to some of the responsibilities that I thought or I never imagined that I'm responsible for. Some of them I'm even overlooking, and how they do their decisions in their respective area in as far as board participation is concerned. And this is some of the people who closed doors for me. And now I'm sitting on the other hand and saying, but give me a clear definition of how best to develop the small scale farmers in the sector. It's not there, as much as it was not there when I started 2007. So the lift as you rise is very important. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope I've added value.
I'm good. Right. So we're just switching over. Apologies, we just got lots of buttons and load shedding that we're dealing with. I trust that everyone can hear and see us at the moment. Okay.
Okay, everyone, sorry about that. We are managing a couple of things on this side, and clearly let me just see if you can see me. At least, oh, you can see me, so it's a miracle. I am, after all, the best person on the webinar today. So just to say to my friend Ntuthu, thank you so much. You know, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I don't even have to do Q&As at the end of this session. Both you and Nick have provided me with so many ideas. And the fact that you started off with the Stokvel idea and the crowdfunding, and ironically was exactly how Sandy and my discussion started this morning. How do we enable this funding in areas where, as you shared, you don't have collateral, you have to lease land in order to be able to grow your business and grow your cattle, etc. So thank you, that was absolutely amazing. I like the Makoti stories as well, because my goodness, you know, Makotis can be treated very badly. So one needs to get your head around all of that. And as I was listening to you as well, I thought, here comes a lovely textbook from what we've learned today, like a learning handbook. From what Nick has shared and from what you've shared, we can start to really develop something very nicely that will not only assist our young people on the call, but also I'm just thinking about your Twitter space that you're involved with as well. The very same things that you covered today, you covered on Sunday evening. So thank you. I really appreciate your time and sharing what I consider an incredible journey, going from your simple roots and your business journey, and now, you know, being such a powerful ally for all of us in your policy, not only policy influence in our country, but your policy influencing ability in national conversations. So we really look forward to working with you and working with improving our program, taking on your learnings, but also for us to be able to roll out the program in provinces that you might be interested in. So thanks, Ntuthu, you've been absolutely wonderful. Just like I hope you're going to do on the first. All right, so I'm going to be doing the countdown that Sandy did before. So, oh my shattered nerves, the whole lot of you. I think that's the end of that poll, because everybody said there was a drama with the market. So again, remember when I shared the slideshow with you, the last block, we've got some good people coming on board saying they're okay with their markets, and Ntuthu must be voting 20,000 times to be able to push the poll up here. So we've got some, that's fine. So we're moving towards 18%. Anybody else got any ideas? People are thinking. You're finding your buttons to vote. So this is incredibly important. This is the last pillar of the program in terms of access to markets. So again, the same challenge identified. Nick identified Nzama. She had problems with markets, and Ntuthu's identified problems with markets. And I'm certain we're going to get a lot of market story from Nonhlanhla now. So are we good with that? All my poll managers, are we seeing any change? We've gone to 14% saying no. Well, you 14% are going to be on the next call sharing your how you make sure that you're in the market and the markets are not a problem to you. And the 86% then are the ones that have problems. So this is an issue. And I think accompanied with this issue, of course, is what do you do with surplus? And again, some of these virtual markets that we are now interacting with, and the fact that we can now get food into food hubs, feeding people, etc., is quite important. All right, so can we end the poll then? That's good. And we can also share the results so that you're able to see and to make sure that we've got that all sorted. So thank you. It's always good for us, as Sandy mentioned earlier, to have this in black and white, or blue and white, so to speak, so that we're able to then use this to guide us in terms of how do we gather together the next time and whose expertise do we need to use. So that's good. Thank you. Can we take that one off then? Good. Right, then I'll move on to my video to be able to introduce our next speaker. So let's just do a little review. Some of the people who've been on the call have asked again about, are they going to be able to get a recording of this? Absolutely. I'm going to use it to also make my notes, to plan my lessons, my lectures, my way forward. You'll all get this, and we'll be able to use it for planning purposes. So let's review a little bit about what Nick shared with us. Nick shared his personal journey, but he also shared some of the experience that he's had being a valley child, coming out of the valley and going back now to assist that community to set up entrepreneurial activities. He also spoke a lot to our self-discipline. And when you listen to Ntuthu, she did exactly the same. She spoke about our brand as our business. And we need to understand this, the way we conduct ourselves in our own lives, in our family, in our business, with our markets, etc. We are our brands, to make sure then that we keep our brand strong. So we will definitely be making sure that we get our brand, we'll do some brand awareness at some stage as well. But let me hand over to, I see that Ntuthu and Nick just fell off for a short time. Welcome back again. I just went and reinforced some of your messages, self-discipline, mindsets. I love Ntuthu when she speaks about record keeping. It speaks to the scientific side of my brain, but it's a side we all hate, but it's so important. So those are some of the lessons that are coming out. We will put some notes together as well, I think, so that we can use these as our checklists to remind ourselves about what's important. But let me move now to Nonhlanhla, who's also had an extremely interesting journey. She's been able to battle against all odds, and she's ended up being as well a multi-award winning farmer. She's received accolades from all over the place, internationally as well as locally. And I also count her as a very special person. So let's look at her. She sees herself as a social entrepreneur, and everything that she's done in terms of setting up her business. You can go and visit her on the road to Wartburg, and she will be able to speak to you about the stuff that she's doing in terms of making sure that her women are able to have their lives improved by the way that she's been able to get access to market. So she's also a passionate community developer, giving back in terms of agriculture and food security. Her great vision in life is about feeding. It's about feeding hungry people. It's about getting quality, nutritious food out to communities in the cheapest possible way. And you might say when you listen to her today, oh, you know, that's a very small scale operation, because she's got a beautiful system that she teaches and she shares. But for all of us, particularly I think of myself living in my little townhouse, it's a very important way that I can also grow veggies and get veggies to my family. So she's a food security specialist, focused on women, and loves her youth. She's just got a whole new group of young people come in and to do their internships with Umgibe. And again, her vision is to feed or empower people to feed 1 million people. So she hasn't got to the 8 million yet. So Nonhlanhla, you're a bit behind the president, but 1 million, I think, is a wonderful goal. So let's turn over and ask Nonhlanhla to share her story with us this morning. Thanks, Nonhlanhla. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to share with you my journey. In 2014, I was diagnosed with cancer. And as a result, I found myself without a job, no food on the table, and a future that looked very, very, very bleak. I remembered that when I was growing up, my parents used to farm a lot. Then I decided to grow my own vegetables. Unfortunately, the chickens ate everything on site, and I didn't even know whose chickens they were. But my problem was not gonna go away. I had to think of a new way of growing vegetables without the chickens touching them. So using discarded planks and a rope, plastic bags, I created a frugal, climate smart growing system. At that time, I didn't know it was a growing system. It was a solution to my problems with the chickens. It grew, but it wasn't getting enough sunlight. The rope was sagging. So I had to go back to the drawing board, whereby I gathered the nails, hung the plastic bag, opened it. It received adequate sunlight. And before long, I had a garden full of vegetables. And it was more than I could eat. So I started selling. And I sold to my neighbors that were in a similar situation as I was. And one day somebody came and said, you know what, if you can actually chop your spinach because it's organic and send it to a restaurant, which was Sekas at the time. I did that, and I still remember to this day, I made 13,500 out of the vegetables that I had grown in a yard because of that little value add that I did. People started wanting to know how much the growing system was, and I didn't know I had a growing system. I undercharged, but I learned. And I grew, I sold, and before long, I had a lot of people that were in the network now, cooperatives. But KZN is a very special place. We've got land, we've got amasimu that we used to work with when we were younger. And some of them came to me and said, we understand about your growing system, but we've got land. What can we do? And then we started doing the teachings, the workshops with the people so that they could be able to self-sustain. And out of that, I'm proud to say today, I'm working with 159 cooperatives, and mostly women-owned and youth-owned. And it has been a very, very amazing journey, because today there is thousands of people that are able to grow vegetables and collectively supply different retail shops using the platform that was created through my own solution to the problem that I had. I had the previous speaker talking about the markets. The markets are there. The customers are there. It's just that sometimes we don't get the chance to be told that we are the market. The market starts right here with us. We want to supply the retail shops, but some of us do not have the compliances in place that will allow us to actually have the market attend to us. And we tend to say, we can't grow anything because we don't have the market. So Umgibe decided that no, we are going to look for market first. Once we've got the market, we then divide ourselves into groups and grow certain vegetables. We did what we call an OMOP, which is one municipality, one product. So we would target those cooperatives that were in a certain municipality that is known for that product being successful. And that has helped us a lot, because sometimes when everyone doesn't have a certain commodity, we do have it because we know that the middle paper sometimes disappears during the year, and we will then be able to supply because people in Umkhanyakude have got it almost all year round. I have faced challenges. Recently, they've been huge. When the unrest started, we had about 19 tons of vegetables ready to be delivered to Food Forward. We couldn't because the roads were not working. The truck that was going to deliver coming from the side of Moy River was blocked. So we lost a lot of vegetables. Unfortunately, all the small scale farmers that were part of that were not able to understand that it was one of those things that happen when you are a farmer. As Umgibe,
So Nonhlanhla, I think you just muted. There you are. You're back. You're live. Continue. I don't know what happened. I think it's this jolly old load shedding. Continue. Thanks, Nonhlanhla.
Okay. I was saying that recently with the unrest in KZN, most of us as small-scale farmers suffered because we lost a lot of vegetables that were en route to some of the clients that we are servicing. It becomes difficult being a farmer. The challenges that we face. The previous speaker spoke about not being able to get funding. I can attest to that. I've never been formally funded because I don't have collateral. I don't have the stuff that commercial farmers have. And I think one of the most difficult parts of being a small-scale farmer, of being a startup, is that we are put under the same umbrella as the commercial farmers. And we don't have the same resources, but the measurements when you want funding are the same. The compliances are the same. So when you are in this space, you need to be innovative around the climate change, the irrigation systems, the markets themselves. You need to be very, very innovative, which is what we've done. A client asked us for 1 million eggs a month. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to have that because I don't have the finance to be able to supply that. But it didn't stop us from producing eggs and creating markets within our communities, and at the same time empowering the people that are around us. The strategy is simple. We get the ladies that we train and we give them the trays of eggs. They find the market, they sell the eggs. Some of them started selling only 10 trays of eggs a month. Now they are selling more than 150 trays of eggs a month. So what does that do? It says that just because you are unemployed doesn't mean that your mind is not working, but it says that as a youth that is an unemployed graduate, you can be able to start as little as possible and continue. Last week, I trained about 19 people. Out of those, I made the same offer about the eggs. They've sold more than 500 trays of eggs. And one lady said to me, I have 12 dependents. And right now, I was depending upon the grant. But right now, as I'm talking to you, I've got 1,500 that I'm putting away. I'm not depending on the grant anymore. So my share today is that let us slice the pie. Let us slice it. Let us be an inclusive social entrepreneurs. Let us help those who are willing to be helped, because you'll always get those who don't really want anything. They want their hands out instead of their hands up. We are here because there are other people that got us to where we are. I was helped by other people, not necessarily with money, but with the sharing of knowledge. Together, we can change the food-related problems that are in South Africa. As farmers, we hold the #1 place in the society. Without a farmer, there is no food. Without a farmer, there is no furniture. There is nothing without a farmer. Maybe we should start cultivating the future of this country today by teaching our youngsters that the future is on the soil, by also not just teaching them but showing them that it is doable. When you are as little as 7 years old, you already know that it's coming. The food is coming from the soil, not from the supermarket, not from anywhere else, but from the soil. Our education system is not helping, because what is happening right now is that there is nothing about gardens in the schools. There is nothing about entrepreneurship in the schools. So everyone in South Africa wants to be employed, but who is going to employ someone when they themselves cannot become entrepreneurs? So the more entrepreneurs we produce in the agricultural sector, the better. Perhaps we should start by explaining to our youth that the work of the government is not to produce jobs, but it is the duty of the citizens to create industries that are going to employ people, that are going to employ the graduates that are coming out. Otherwise, this whole thing that is called the society is going to collapse. Perhaps that's where we should start. And another thing, we need to create another kind of youth, whereby we are going to pass the baton to the youth to be instrumental in creating a food secure South Africa. When people are hungry, they turn to crime. When people are hungry, they turn to drugs. When people are hungry, they are violent. So the challenge that I am sending out today is that it's not about farming. It's not about anything that we are doing right now. It's about putting everything into place, creating value chains that are going to be inclusive, that are going to include everyone, from the youngest of kids to the eldest of everyone. Let us have mentors that are coming from some of us that have walked this journey, to say, I have walked this journey up to this far. How many people am I going to help moving forward, so that they can also be able to help others? Challenges are there, but I have known one thing, that if you realize that you have a problem, most of the time you already have the solution. But sometimes you need somebody that's going to say, I hear your solution, I can understand it. I think I can be able to assist you in moving forward. But these days we are so much into competition that we are no longer doing what we need to do. It takes a village to raise a child. If that child finds themselves alone and no one guiding them, what are we expecting from that child? What are we expecting from our children when we don't tell them that each and every one of them have got a purpose? It's a pity that I only found out, I think when I was like 52, what my purpose in life was. I went to school to a PhD level, but I still didn't know what my purpose was in life. As Kathy said before, my purpose in life is to eradicate hunger, not just the hunger that talks about your stomach, but the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the hunger that is producing so much ignorance in our society needs to be eradicated, because some people are sitting with resources that can make them comfortable, but they don't know because they don't have the knowledge. So today, I'm not going to talk about the challenges that are faced by us in this farming space. I'm going to talk about the challenges that begin from the day you are born, when you have people in the society that do not tell you that this life of yours is not meant for you to depend on someone else. Our children are on drugs, some because they had given up on life. Today, I am saying there are challenges out there, but the biggest challenge is the food system that we have in South Africa. The inequality that we face. It's more difficult when you are a woman, because you don't only face the difficulties that every other human being faces, but also being a woman itself poses a very, very great problem. For example, we've got a lot of land in KZN, but sometimes you want to go and ask for land, and you are asked to come with a man so that they can be able to vouch for you, or they can stand up, represent you. But you are here. You are here. And you are saying, I see potential in this land. Can I have it? But you are asked to come with a man so that they can represent you. And that in itself is a barrier for a woman to move forward to nature as they are supposed to nature. So today, I am very happy that we are talking about women. We are talking about the youth. I'm not going to say anything about the marketing. I'm not going to say anything about the packaging. The previous speaker said it all, that you are responsible to make your boss happy. How do you do that? By knowing everything that you have to know about your customer, by caring about anyone, by being humble, by respecting everyone that you meet, because you don't know who your customer is. You don't know who you are meeting. By learning in every single person that you meet. In Zulu, they say, when they greet you, they say, sawubona. I'm saying sawubona, sanbonani to everyone that is here. And I'm saying sanbonani to the youth that we have in this country, to the women that we have struggling in this country. Sawubona in Zulu means I see you, I acknowledge you. Today, I'm paying tribute to the women that are working very hard in every space they are in, to say, we acknowledge your existence and we appreciate you being there. And starting by appreciating myself, starting to appreciate the opportunity that I've been given here. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I had a choice. I could have decided to beg other people to help me, but I made a choice. So whether you are doing something about helping somebody else today, you are making a choice. And if you decide not to help that person, you are still making a choice. By keeping quiet, by standing on the fence, you are still making a choice. So if it's about choices, who is willing today to say, I can help, I can mentor, I can be able to be the change that I want to see today? I always say that sometimes when you take a glass jar and put water and then take 1 granule of potassium permanganate and put in that jar, it changes the space where it is. We can't change everything, but we can change the communities where we are, one community at a time. And if we change 10 youth in that community, they can then also change the spaces where you are. The funny thing is that when you take granules of potassium permanganate from different people and you put it in that jar and you start stirring, there's a solution. So today I'm saying there is a solution if we, as we are gathered here today, can put each and everyone's what you call contribution could be put together and lastly, I have to say that Umgibe is a small company. It's a social enterprise. Today, we are working with more than 2,800 small-scale farmers, and we are continuing to grow one farmer at a time, but we are able to feed people. I might not have reached the million, but I know that before long, millions would be able to be fed even when I'm gone from this world. There are some people who are going to pass the baton. And training is important. Training. And it doesn't have to be formal training. It just have to be training so that people can know that they are capable, restoring dignity in this world. I thank you.
Thank you, Nonhlanhla. Thank you very much. How inspiring. Hi, everyone. My name is Cindy Kidger. Sorry, some of us lost a bit of connection this side, so I've taken over. How inspiring. You really inspired me when you said that we should be teaching our children that the future is in the soil. So thank you very much. Your story is truly inspiring. We're going to take a 5-minute comfort break now, everyone. So it is now 11:29. If you could come back on and be back at your seats at 11:35, please. Thank you very much. then I had a speaker.
Right, everybody. Thank you for just hanging in there. Sorry, we're having some challenges between Eskom's load shedding and trying to run the webinar. We had a little glitch a few seconds ago, but I trust you can all hear us again. So just to make sure that everyone's still there, what I'd like to do is just run another poll quickly. And so I'm going to just get that up in front of you. And so just give us a second. You'll see the poll coming up in a minute. Sorry, we just giving us a second here. We're just getting that poll right. There it is in front of you. And this is another interesting question that we're asking right now is, have you received funding for your business or business idea? So I know that from our previous speaker, we just heard that she'd received no assistance whatsoever. So let's get you to answer this poll. It's a yes or no question.
Have you received funding for your business or business idea? Yes or no? All right, let's see. It's coming along. At the moment, it's just a very, very clear no. I haven't received any funding. And again, as Kathy was saying earlier, it's so important for us to understand these questions because it assists us when we're speaking to the relevant stakeholders around how we can ensure that funding is the correct people, the correct organizations, etc., etc. So we'll give you another few minutes just to continue responding to this poll. The question that we've got there at the moment, everybody that's on our poll has said no, we have received no funding for our business. 3 or 4 seconds. I think we can start getting ready to close our poll. Right, so to my team that's here, thank you very much. Let's close off our poll. And very interesting response that all our respondents today have not received any assistance. Right, so I'm going to then move on to the next item on our agenda this afternoon. And wow, what an inspiring and inspirational day we've had so far. So now it's for the exciting time. And Kathy, I'm going to ask Dr. Kathy Hurly to come in and present to us on the next steps of our Kwanalu women and youth and rural entrepreneurship and the opportunity that exists and that we're going to continue to pursue and work on moving forward. So just checking if we can, sorry, we're just having a few little glitches here or challenges, if I could use that word, but challenges are always opportunities. To just take the poll off. All right, and then I'm going to hand over to Kathy just to share her screen with us and tell us the next steps in terms of our program that we are currently working on. So Kathy, I'm going to hand over to you then. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. So if you can imagine how much scrambling was going on our side as everything just disappeared. And so I know that quite often when I've been sitting on webinars, I haven't really felt for the people who've been organizing the webinar, but my goodness, I was feeling for ourselves. So again, just to reiterate, my thanks to Nonhlanhla for her inspirational journey. And again, potassium permanganate. I absolutely love that. It was such a good example to use for us. And I can see you're in the food health business, permanganate, to make sure there were no germs around. So I'm going to use that example again. But as Sandy said, let me just go onto our onto the presentation, just to be able to share the next steps with you. So to be able to give you an idea about where we left off in the last session. So remember, I spoke about the impact of our WYRE program. That was where I ended off the last conversation. And the most important thing, and this is what we're seeing a very big link at the moment with all of this in terms of our businesses, jobs, livelihoods, and of course our impact on the economy. So that then becomes very important to us. And then going on to now the next steps, we're really starting these next steps in November. We've been very lucky to have received funding to actually start training. On the 8th of November, we start with our first groups, and we'll hopefully be able to continue that with many groups as we go into 2022. So again, now, just to remind you about the steps that we're going through, so that you all know, as Nonhlanhla also reminded us, I appreciate every one of you who are sitting on the call today. I appreciate the time that you've given us, and I appreciate your views. And so the next thing that we'll be doing after we've been through our webinar, it will be question and answers. And then, of course, we'll have a little session just to answer any of your questions and answers. If you have any questions, now's the time to be listening to me and to be typing your question in, because after all, we are women. That's very easy to do. So if you don't mind, that that will help if you've got any questions about how we're going to go forward, so we can answer those questions. The next very, very, very big step after the Q&A is that everybody, even the people who weren't able to join us today because of the scarcity load shedding that we've now been imposed on us, will receive a link to our survey. And our survey obviously is POPI compliant. Everything that you fill in on the survey, we will keep confidential. It's not going to be used or circulated to anybody who can bother you with phone calls and the rest of the stuff that happens when people get hold of databases. But the survey is essentially going to be able to identify a whole lot of things that we need to know about you. It's going to be about you as a person, in other words, your demographics. Then it's going to be about you in your area. And so first of all, then who are you? Very importantly, I've covered POPI and the database. Who are you? What makes you who you are? What makes you unique? All of those things, that's important for us to be able to find exactly where we can put you and assist you. Then where are you? The demographics, important in terms of location for clustering you. What are you involved in? So as I said at the very beginning of the presentation, I'm passionate about agriculture, so is Sandy, but it is not necessarily the be all and the end all. So importantly, then what are you involved in? Are you involved with brick making? Are you involved in bakeries? Are you involved? I don't mind. And you will not be discriminated against if you say that you're not a farmer. I need to know what everybody's doing out there so we can start growing this program. And then, of course, for us, there's so much I can do. I'll be looking for all my assistants to be able to roll things out as we go forward. And our big question that we'll be wanting to ask of everybody, how can we support or strengthen your business or your idea or whatever it might be? And because this is a free world and we're all able to apply our minds, the very important thing then is in terms of the survey, you can want to be on our journey. So nobody's been forced to be part of that, but of course we would welcome everybody to start with us so that we can start working with you to go forward. So again, just to be able to give you a quick little snapshot about how we're going and where we're going to be going in terms of the future, register and webinar. Thank you very much for, well, the 220. Obviously, we had challenges getting everybody on the webinar, but everyone will receive a recording and clearly get the message. Then we'll be able to use the survey to establish who, what, where, and how, and what. It's all about you. And then part of this will also be to be able to identify mentors who will go on a very quick, short, very effective mentorship training course in November 2021, just before we go into December, because once the funding was approved, we have some very key service providers who are going to come into the program. And we thought before we get to the December key time for entrepreneurs to be making some wonderful money, we needed to be able to get some of those business mentors up and going about all of that. We'll bring everyone together into their clusters, we'll make groups, and each one of you will know who you are, and then we'll be doing some little bit of politics, team leaders, etc., who's going to be communicating, and we'll be able to start working then towards our 2022 work program. And so that's really where we are in terms of my next steps. And I think perhaps what we'll do, everybody.
Right. Thank you, everyone. So we've been talking this morning about a whole lot of things and taking challenges and using them as opportunities. And as Kathy said, us, because we seem to have lost our signals, we've lost our electricity, but we haven't lost our sense of humor. And I think that's critically important, that one can never lose. And, yes, so we'll keep going forward. And what we'd like to do right now is open up the meeting to a interactive through on the Q&A section. So right now, if there are any questions that anyone has that you'd like to put forward to the meeting, as I say, let's get those through. Just as I said, sorry, we just trying to get everything up in front of us at the moment. So right, as I say, what I'd like to do is just get them in front of me, and so a question that came through from Nonhlanhla to ask her to collaborate with your business as a project taking place all over provinces or just in KZN. Nonhlanhla, would you like to, I see you have answered that, but perhaps just give us a little bit of feedback in terms of, and you didn't actually speak about that, but just give us a little bit of an idea. I see, as I say, you have answered, but I think it would be quite useful to just get that direct feedback from yourself.
Hi, I work primarily in other people in Western Cape, Gauteng, and Free State, and Limpopo.
Awesome.
So I do collab on different provinces. It's a matter of looking at what the person does and the synergies that we have, and then because just make sure that we are fed a food secure.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you for answering that. What I'd like to do is, I see there is a question for Nick, and I think Nick has perhaps dropped off at the moment, but I'm going to actually spend quite a bit of time with Nick yesterday, and the question is to Nick, your organization is very inspiring. Do you do community drives to inspire? Meeting with Nick yesterday, and I know many of the discussions you've had with him. I'm sure you'll be able to share with us what he's up to, and if I can just get some feedback from you in terms of your impressions from your discussion.
Thanks, Sandy. So I think that the most important thing is that we are not anti our young men. So that's the most important thing, and that there is a very big place for branching on. One of the things that Nick spoke about this morning is that he runs a very interesting program called Boys to Men to be able to address that the tap our young men. Not necessarily a colour issue. So that Boys to Men is aimed at changing the mindset of our young men to be able to get them to engage in our country. And obviously the issue with unemployment is not making it very easy for young people to engage in anything these days. So our program is aimed at the youth in the of anyone who's under 35, and in terms of the kind of the qualification and the way that the government welcome to participate, and obviously our ability, as probably Nonhlanhla with Umgibe, our ability to be able to carry on, and is all really it's all depends on funding, but not necessarily only funding. If we find collaborators or partners who would like to, we would very be very happy to be able to put together what I would call a mentorship group of people who are leading the program. That will then, I think, assist if we need to be able to roll out the program more quickly and we're able to get more service providers, community, and more people. At this stage, the program was limited by the fact that we were able to offer different types of training to 665 people, jobs, etc., all attached. So I think that, so please, I'm not excluding the young men. I have one young man of my own. So we do need to make sure that we work with them, and there are a lot of them. I mentioned when Ntuthu was giving I was giving Ntuthu in a Twitter space on a Sunday, young people on their Twitter space asking about farming opportunities, and a lot of those people are very under 35 young men. So the desire to be able to be an entrepreneur is only about us and about women. It's also about young men. So thanks, Sandy. That's the answer.
Right. There were another two questions that were relatively similar, and thanks, Nonhlanhla, for offering to assist us. You've put in particularly the one where we have a young person who's limited resources and they've got an idea, and I think that's where entrepreneurs start, is having an idea. And it's how do you live that idea out? How do you live that dream out? And as Kathy has mentioned, and you've just heard on the webinar today, please make sure that you participate in that survey, that link that we will be sending you. Get your information through to us so we can assess the situation, and yes, look forward to that. With respect to graduates, and Kwanalu has been a key partner with the Future Farmer Foundation, and the Future Farmer Foundation particularly focus on providing, and for program, you can find them on Facebook and on WhatsApp. I'm sorry, not WhatsApp, on the website. What I'll do is I'll give you the telephone number in a minute. I'll pull that up. But in the meantime, we make a difference. And it's all about making a difference in the lives of came through, and I'm just looking, I'm sorry, I'm working between two computers now. I see there was a question around is it possible to access resources, particularly looking at the skills development levy, practical, absolutely, skills development levy, for example. How do we access the funding from the CETA? And we as an organization have an excellent working relationship with the Agri-CETA, and I think that conversation can also happen and to our communities and say, explain, how do we access that SDL levy that we've contributed to? So we'll certainly look. So I'm just going to look at, and to Kathy, is there a crack used for selection to join the program? Do you accommodate people who are currently employed and first are coming through? From Overstone Farm, or of a general nature? Okay. It's been really exciting to listen as an absolute. So I see that Philip has saying that she'll have a look at the survey and hopefully we'll get some more feedback through those surveys to guide us forward. We'd very absolutely, thanks Philippa, and I think questions that have been answered, we will communicate to everyone who's participated today through a direct email. We'll obviously make the link available, and we really look for a good idea, and it was one of the things that Nick said at the beginning as well. We need to listen to what the needs of people are, and that's exactly what Kathy has been doing, is to understand what is it that we need to I think just a number of donors, and as we know, each what they would like to see in the programs. So we're really trying to stay true to what the needs are, and how do we link those needs to the opportunities. Questions that I saw earlier on in the Q&A section was particularly around the just trying to.
It was particularly around our approach to communication and development, so and marketing, and as I say, we've had some really exciting initiatives. We've got John Flanagan who's here at Kwanalu, and Ndawa and Dava, who have been discussing opportunities in the marketing space. What was it, Kathy? Paying it forward, Hello Choice, and the opportunities that exist there. And so we in those discussions, we in discussions with a number of stakeholders to see how we can make a difference as an organization by connecting. We have is how do we access markets? How do we bring our goods through into the markets? So I don't see any additional questions. We will just continue to keep a very close eye on our chat question and answer box that we've got going live at the moment, and yeah, we'll certainly answer any more questions that do come through. Right, everybody, thank you for just hanging in there. Sorry, we're having some challenges between Eskom's load shedding and trying to run the webinar. We had a little glitch a few seconds ago, but I trust you can all hear us again. So just to make sure that everybody is online and that you're all still there, what I'd like to do is just run another poll quickly. And so I'm going to just get that up in front of you. And so just give us a second. You'll see the poll coming up in a minute.
Sorry, we just giving us a second here. We're just getting that poll right. There it is in front of you. And this is another interesting question that we're asking right now is, have you received funding for your business or business idea? So I know that from our previous speaker, we just heard that she'd received no assistance whatsoever. So let's get you to answer this poll. It's a yes or no question. Have you received funding for your business or business idea? Yes or no? All right, let's see. It's coming along. At the moment, it's just a very clear no. I haven't received any funding. And again, as Kathy was saying earlier, it's so important for us to understand these questions because it assists us when we're speaking to the relevant stakeholders around how we can ensure that funding is allocated and directed to the correct people, the correct organizations, etc., etc. So we'll give you another few minutes just to continue responding to this poll, the question that we've got there. At the moment, everybody that's on our poll has said no, we have received no funding for our business or business idea. We'll just give it another 3 or 4 seconds. I think we can start getting ready to close our poll. Right, so to my team that's here, thank you very much. Let's close off our poll. And very interesting response that all our respondents today have not received any assistance. Right, so I'm going to then move on to the next item on our agenda this afternoon. And wow, what an inspiring and inspirational day we've had so far. So now it's for the exciting time. And Kathy, I'm going to ask Dr. Kathy Hurly to come in and present to us on the next steps of our Kwanalu women and youth and rural entrepreneurship and the opportunity that exists and that we're going to continue to pursue and work on moving forward. So just checking if we can, sorry, we're just having a few little glitches here, or challenges, if I could use that word, but challenges are always opportunities. So I'm going to just, the poll, I'm going to just take the poll off. All right, and then I'm going to hand over to Kathy just to share her screen with us and tell us the next steps in terms of our program that we are currently working on. So Kathy, I'm going to hand over to you then. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. So if you can imagine how much scrambling was going on our side as everything just disappeared. And so I know that quite often when I've been sitting on webinars, I haven't really felt for the people who've been organizing the webinar, but my goodness, I was feeling for ourselves. So again, just to reiterate, my thanks to Nonhlanhla for her inspirational journey. And again, potassium permanganate. I absolutely love that. It was such a good example to use for us. And I can see you're in the food health business because I remember cleaning things with potassium permanganate to make sure there were no germs around. So I'm going to use that example again. But as Sandy said, let me just go onto the presentation just to be able to share the next steps with you. So to be able to give you an idea about where we left off in the last session. So remember I spoke about the impact of our WYRE program. That was where I ended off the last conversation. And the most important thing, and this is what we're seeing a very big link at the moment with all of this in terms of our businesses, jobs, livelihoods, and of course our impact on the economy. So that then becomes very important to us. And then going on to now the next steps. We're really starting these next steps in November. We've been very lucky to have received funding to actually start training. On the 8th of November, we start with our first groups, and we'll hopefully be able to continue that with many groups as we go into 2022. So again, now, just to remind you about the steps that we're going through so that you all know, as Nonhlanhla also reminded us, I appreciate every one of you who are sitting on the call today. I appreciate the time that you've given us, and I appreciate your views. And so the next thing that we'll be doing after we've been through our webinar, it will be question and answers. And then, of course, we'll have a little session just to answer any of your questions and answers. If you have any questions, now's the time to be listening to me and to be typing your question in, because after all, we are women. That's very easy to do. So if you don't mind, that will help if you've got any questions about how we're going to go forward, so we can answer those questions. The next very, very, very big step after the Q&A is that everybody, even the people who weren't able to join us today because of this ghastly load shedding that we've now been imposed on us, will receive a link to our survey. And our survey obviously is POPI compliant. Everything that you fill in on the survey, we will keep confidential. It's not going to be used or circulated to anybody who can bother you with phone calls and the rest of the stuff that happens when people get hold of databases. But the survey is essentially going to be able to identify a whole lot of things that we need to know about you. It's going to be about you as a person, in other words, your demographics. Then it's going to be about you in your area. And you will not be discriminated against if you say that you're not a farmer. I need to know what everybody's doing out there so we can start growing this program. And then, of course, for us, there's so much I can do. I'll be looking for all my assistants to be able to roll things out as we go forward. And our big question that we'll be wanting to ask of everybody, how can we support or strengthen your business or your idea or whatever it might be? And because this is a free world, and we're all able to apply our minds, the very important thing then is in terms of the survey, you can choose to come on the journey with us, but you can also decide that you don't want to be on our journey. So nobody's been forced to be part of that, but of course we would welcome everybody to start with us so that we can start working with you to go forward. So again, just to be able to give you a quick little snapshot about how we're going and where we're going to be going in terms of the future. Register and webinar, thank you very much for, well, the 220. Obviously, we had challenges getting everybody on the webinar, but everyone will receive a recording and clearly get the message. Then we'll be able to use the survey to establish who, what, where, and how, and what is all about you. And then part of this will also be to be able to identify mentors who will go on a very quick, short, very effective mentorship training course in November 2021, just before we go into December. Because what we wanted to do is, obviously we had to wait for funding. Once the funding was approved, we have some very key service providers who are going to come into the program. And we thought before we get to the December key time for entrepreneurs to be making some wonderful money, we needed to be able to get some of those business mentors up and going and the clusters formed. And the survey will inform us about all of that. We'll bring everyone together into their clusters, we'll make groups, and each one of you will know who you are, and then we'll be doing some little bit of politics, team leaders, etc., who's going to be communicating, and we'll be able to start working then towards our 2022 work program. And so that's really where we are in terms of my next steps. And I think perhaps what we'll do then is I will hand back to Sandy. Thanks very much, everybody.
Right. Thank you, everyone. So we've been talking this morning about a whole lot of things and taking challenges and using them as opportunities. And as Kathy said, our stress levels have been a little bit high in the last 10-15 minutes because we seem to have lost our signals, we've lost our electricity, but we haven't lost our sense of humor. And I think that's critically important, that one can never lose sight of opportunities and being able to laugh together, smile together, and Yes, so we'll keep going forward. And what we'd like to do right now is open up the meeting to a interactive session. We have seen a number of questions coming through on the Q&A section. So right now, if there are any questions that anyone has that you'd like to put forward to the meeting, as I say, let's get those through. Just trying to access them on my computer. As I said, sorry, we just trying to get everything up in front of us at the moment. So, right, as I say, some very interesting questions that have come in, and what I'd like to do is just get them in front of me. And so a question that came through from Nonhlanhla to ask her to collaborate with your business as a small farmer. How do I do it? And is your project taking place all over provinces or just in KZN? Nonhlanhla, would you like to, I see you have answered that, but perhaps just give us a little bit of feedback in terms of, where you are, what you know, and you did actually speak about that, but just give us a little bit of an idea. I see, as I say, you have answered, but I think it will be quite useful to just get that direct feedback from yourself.
Hi, I work primarily in KZN, but I am also partnering with other people in Western Cape, Gauteng, and Free State and Limpopo.
Awesome.
So I do collaborate with different people from different provinces. It's a matter of looking at what the person does and the synergies that we have, and then because as I said before, my purpose is to just make sure that we are fed a food secure country.
Absolutely. Right, thank you for answering that. What I'd like to do is, I see there's a question for Nick, and I think Nick has perhaps dropped off at the moment, but I'm going to ask Kathy just to assist us with this answer, because I know Kathy spent quite a bit of time with Nick yesterday, and the question is to Nick, your organization is very inspiring. Do you do community drives to inspire other young men? Kathy, in your meeting with Nick yesterday, and I know many of the discussions you've had with him, I'm sure you'll be able to share with us what he's up to and possibly answer the question that's been posed. So Kathy, if I can just get some feedback from you in terms of your impressions from your discussion.
Thanks, Sandy. So I think that the most important thing is that we are not anti our young men. So that's the most important thing, and that there is a very big place for our young men in our society. And just then branching on, one of the things that Nick spoke about this morning is that he runs a very interesting program called Boys to Men, to be able to address that the tattoo that sits in the minds of probably many of our young men. It's not necessarily a colour issue. So that Boys to Men is aimed at changing the mindset of our young men, to be able to get them to engage actively in our country. And obviously the issue with unemployment is not making it very easy for young people to engage in anything these days. So our program is aimed at the youth in the sense of anyone who's under 35, and in terms of the kind of the qualification and the way that the government identifies youth. So anyone under 35 is welcome to participate. And obviously our ability, as probably Nonhlanhla with Umgibe, our ability to be able to carry on and do these things out of the province and in other provinces is all really, it's all depends on funding, but not necessarily only funding. If we find collaborators or partners who would like to work with us, for example, in the Eastern Cape or in Limpopo, we would be very happy to be able to put together what I would call a mentorship group of people who are leading the program in different provinces. So I think that will then, I think, assist. If we need to be able to roll out the program more quickly and we're able to get more service providers on board, we would certainly be able to look at doing more communities and more people. At this stage, the program was limited by the fact that we were able to offer different types of training to 665 people, and then obviously that then has the businesses and the jobs, etc., all attached. So I think that so please, I'm not excluding the young men. I have one young man of my own, so we do need to make sure that we work with them, and there are a lot of them. I mentioned when Ntuthu was giving I was giving Ntuthu the introduction earlier on, that Ntuthu and I sit in a Twitter space on a Sunday night where there are, at one stage, we had 400 young people on that Twitter space asking about farming opportunities. And a lot of those people are very under 35 young men. So the desire to be able to be an entrepreneur, to be an agri-entrepreneur is not, it's not only about us and about women, it's also about young men. So thanks, Sandy. That's the answer, I think, for that one.
Right, fantastic. So thanks for that, Kathy. There were another two questions that were relatively similar, and thanks, Nonhlanhla, for offering to assist. I see you've, particularly the one where we have a young person who's saying that they lost their job a month ago, and they obviously have limited resources, and they've got an idea, and I think that's where entrepreneurs start, is having an idea. And it's how do you live that idea out? How do you live that dream out? And as Kathy has mentioned, and you've just heard the opportunity that we are offering to all our people on the webinar today, please make sure that you participate in that survey, that link that we will be sending you. Get your information through to us so we can assess the situation, and yes, look forward to that. I also noted a question that came through with respect to graduates, and Kwanalu has been a key partner with the Future Farmer Foundation, and the Future Farmer Foundation particularly focus on providing opportunities, learnerships on farm. And for further information on our Future Farmer Partner program, you can find them on Facebook and on WhatsApp. Sorry, not WhatsApp, on the website. What I'll do is I'll give you their telephone number in a minute. I'll pull that up. But in the meantime, yes, I think that's again where we can say we make a difference. And it's all about making a difference in the lives of people. So just another question that came through, and I'm just looking, I'm sorry, I'm working between two computers now. I see there was a question around, is it possible to access resources, particularly looking at the skills development levy? And I think that's what Kathy was also saying earlier, is how do we deal with the practical things? What does that mentorship include? And it's absolutely skills development levy, for example. How do we access the funding from the CETA? And we as an organization have an excellent working relationship with the Agri-CETA. And I think that conversation can also happen, and maybe we can see how do we bring the CETA to our communities and say, explain how do we access that SDL levy that we've contributed to. So we'll certainly look at a possibility, at taking that one forward. So I'm just going to look at some of the other questions. So to Kathy, is there a criteria used for selection to join the program? Do you accommodate people who are currently employed and run the agri-businesses part-time? I'm going to just park that for a second. I'll ask Kathy in a minute. I'm just going to have a quick glance as the questions are coming through. Hi, Philip here from Overstone Farm, are of a general nature. Okay. It's been really exciting to listen to the morning's inspirational speakers, and absolutely, how inspirational has this morning been? So I see that Philip is saying that she'll have a look at the survey, and hopefully we'll get some more feedback through those surveys to guide us forward. We'd very much like to be part of the conversation, and absolutely thanks, Philippa. And I think we will definitely pick up after our webinar on the questions that have been answered. We will communicate to everyone who's participated today through a direct email. We'll obviously make the link available. And we really look forward to receiving the surveys that are going to give us some good idea. And it was one of the things that Nick said at the beginning as well. We need to listen to what the needs of people are. And that's exactly what Kathy has been doing, is to understand what is it that we need to do and how do we make a difference. Kathy, I'm going to just ask you to perhaps, is there a criteria? I think just before I hand over to Kathy, we're working with a number of funders, a number of donors, and as we know, each of them will have different views on what they would like to see in the programs. So we're really trying to stay true to what the needs are and how do we link those needs to the opportunities. So there may be a couple of different programs that will have different requirements. But Kathy, okay, Kathy's just saying to me, spot on, Sandy, you've given the answer there. So as we go forward, we will try as best as we can to communicate that. And I think through the questions that you will see in our survey, you'll also start to understand the focus of a lot of what we're doing. And I think really what it is, it's about entrepreneurship. How do we grow our economy? How do we grow our rural economy? How do we ensure that we can work together? And I think that's critically what it is. And through all the speakers that we've heard this morning, that message has been coming through. How do we work together? How do we listen to each other? How do we share with each other those lessons that we've learned? I'm just blown away by this morning's inputs that we've had, and I trust everyone enjoyed it as much as I have, certainly. So it's really been absolutely inspiring going through this morning's program. I'm just looking to see if there's any further attendees, anyone else. I don't see any hands. I don't see any more questions that are coming in. I'm just zipping around here on the different platforms that we've got open to check that we're not missing anything. Right, so I don't see any questions. I hope that the questions that were coming through in the beginning, we did answer all those questions. Just to say that we have a development desk here at Kwanalu that is focusing on how we can assist and service our members. How can we assist and service community members and leaders? So we have set up some very exciting and innovative approaches, and questions that I saw earlier on in the Q&A section was particularly around the
it was particularly around our approach to communication and development, so and marketing, and as I say, we've had some really exciting initiatives. We've got John Flanagan, who's here at Kwanalu, and Ndawa and Daba, who have been discussing opportunities in the marketing space that we can present to you, and those opportunities are really exciting. And in fact, Nonhlanhla was speaking about what was it, Kathy, paying it forward, Hello Choice, and the opportunities that exist there. And so we in those discussions, we in discussions with a number of stakeholders to see how we can make a difference as an organization by connecting service providers that can assist you with your markets, for example, because that's always one of the biggest challenges that we have, is how do we access markets? How do we bring our goods through into the markets? So I don't see any additional questions. We will just continue to keep a very close eye on our chat question and answer box that we've got going live at the moment. And yeah, we'll certainly answer any more questions that do come through. So I know we're running a little bit ahead of our schedule this morning, but I think the challenges with signal and electricity and everything else, we'll just continue with our program. And we've got a really exciting opportunity. I'm going to use the word opportunity to present to you today. And that's the Wonderbag. And if you're wondering what the Wonderbag is about, I'm going to ask Sarah to come on board, and let's just, yeah, she'll be coming through in a second, and we'll ask Sarah to come in and present us and tell us about this exciting opportunity. And I say opportunity because don't leave. There is some very exciting opportunities that sit in front of us at the moment. So Sarah, I'm going to hand over to you and look forward to hearing from you this morning. Sarah?
Thank you so much, Sandy, and thank you, Kathy, and thank you to everybody for making this video conference possible. We also have load shedding problems, so I think it's all of us together. And it's really, it's wonderful to be here. I am the founder of the Wonderbag. Now, I'm not sure how many of you know what the Wonderbag is, but I would like to start by showing you a video of the Wonderbag so you understand how it works. And then I'm going to tell you a bit about my journey. I wanted to talk to you and explain I'm an entrepreneur and why I started the Wonderbag and what the role of the Wonderbag has been in my life and what it is the role in many lives across South Africa. But I'm going to start first to show you how this bag that you can see behind me, how does a bag that looks like a pumpkin cook? So I'm sure many of you know the Wonderbag, but let us first, I will ask Alice, my partner, to start the video. Thank you. I don't know if there's any sound, or is it just me not hearing the sound?
No, we don't have sound this side.
Alice, is there a sound problem? Is that better?
Sanibonani, igama lami uMandisa wakamtshali. Namhlanje ngizonifundisa ukupheka i-rice nge-Wonderbag. Uzothatha inkomishi ezimbili ze-rice bese ufaka inkomishi eziwu-4 zamanzi. Bese usufakile inkomishi zakho zamanzi eziwu-4, usuzothatha ibhodwe lakho ulibeke emlilweni isikhathi esingango-5 minutes. Ngesikhathi usabilisa ku-5 minutes, ibulungisa i-Wonderbag ngokuthi undlalele imfaduko ngaphansi ukuze uvikele isikhwama sakho ukuthi singangcoli uma kukhona okuchithekayo esikhwameni noma ibhodwe lishisa kakhulu. Bese uthatha ibhodwe lakho-ke mase ligcapha u-5 minutes usuzolifaka la esikhwameni i-Wonderbag. Bese nesivalo lesi siza la phezu kwesivalo sebhodwe. Vala ngci i-Wonderbag yakho ushiye phezu kwesitafula isikhathi esingango-45 minutes kuya kwi-hour. Ngemva kwe-hour i-rice lakho lisuke selivuthiwe, uzokuthathela kuliveza elinjani selivuthiwe. Emva kwe-hour ke lilodwa i-rice lakho lizobe selibukeka kanje. Selomile seliredi ukuthi uphake ulidle. Isikhwama singaligcina lifudumeleke mangabe ukuthi awukakabuyi up to 8 hours lihlele esikhwameni. So I think kuyabonakala ukuthi livuthwe kahle kanjani.
Thank you. Thank you, Alice. So sawubona, mina ngizaliwe Zulu mina. Ngikhulile ngungundlovu. Ngikhuluma Zulu kancane, Singisi kancane, yonke into kancane. So ngizozama kuluma kancane Singisi, kancane Zulu, but ngcono ngicabanga Singisi. Mina funa buza, ban bugile Wonderbag. Waneyas faka isandla sakho wana bugile lo if you've seen the Wonderbag before. So I'm just saying, if you've seen the Wonderbag, do you want to raise your hands so that I know how many people know the Wonderbag? Kathy's seen the Wonderbag. Good. And Alice has seen the Wonderbag. And I'm sure many of you will have seen the Wonderbag somewhere. We used to Dicer at ShopRite. Many people bought it with Raja at ShopRite in 2012, 2011. Ngikalila, I started the Wonderbag in 2008. But I need to start by telling you that I grew up in Ngungunglovu, and I spent a lot of time with my friends that was cooking around fires, and we were breathing Ntuthu, so we were breathing in the smoke. And as I grew up as a woman, I spent a lot of time working in rural Africa. I am a farmer. I like to farm. I grew up on a farm, and I believe in vegetable gardens and in making ways that we can empower ourselves to live better, healthy lives. But the big problem was for Amagoko. Yonke Amagoko, Salikaya, Petameningingan. And they need to cook for so many children, and they have to collect firewood. And every day, Ikovuza, they cooking over a fire. And I thought, if a gogo is spending all that time cooking over a fire, she's using so much time, so much effort. Many times it is electricity, which is expensive, and there's not enough money for the children to go to school or for more than one meal a day. And I have been thinking for many, many, many years, how do I support the gogo? The gogo who is all day with the baby on her back. And in 2008, we were having load shedding just like today. Lutu gudla, lutu pega, everything. South Africa was no electricity. I think many of you remember when the load shedding started in 2008. Ngilalile mbeteni yami, ngicabangile kakhulu. Manje ngisowenzani? Ngikhulumile naNkulunkulu and ngicabangile, igoko yami kathi sebenzisa i-bogies nama-cushions. And mina kumbulile kathi khona ibhoto phakathi leli cushion. Mina cabanga hlambe mina nyaga. And mina vugile. And I went to the kitchen and I brought a pot to the boil and I put it on my sofa and covered it with cushions in April 2008. And I went back to bed in Gilalile. And when I woke up at 7 o'clock, I opened and my stew was cooked. And I thought, this is something, a business. I have an idea here. If we can make a bag that cooks food, instead of it cooking all day with the flame coming in and going out the top, if we can keep the heat of the cooking inside the bag, then Amagoko, so Petiskati will get so much more time And they don't have to then collect so much firewood or get money for electricity or paraffin, and also all the burning and the children who get burnt on the fires when nobody's looking after. And I thought of all those girls, Amatomazan, they are helping all the time to collect firewood or helping in the gardens, helping to try and find money to keep the household going. And so I made 500 cushions with like this. And I put them into 500 gogos houses in 2008. And in 3 months, I saw one gogo. She was cooking goat's heads at the taxi rank. But it was a big fire she was making, and one pot, and trying to look after children. And this, after 3 months, all the goat's heads were inside 3 wonder bags. And she'd employed one more lady to help her with the business. And the 3 children that didn't go to school were in school. So I saw that my entrepreneurial idea had made another entrepreneur empower her business. And that gogo still today in Soweto, she supplies goat's heads for maybe 10 taxi ranks now. And she's built herself a house. And she is very happy. And she is a big ambassador for the Wonderbag cooking. And so I realized that I needed to build this business and get the Wonderbag into the houses of everybody that wanted it. But like all entrepreneurs, ngikulu mali. And when I went, no money. And when I went to go and ask people, tell them my business idea, they said, no, a bag can't change the way people cook. A bag is a bag, it's a cushion. It's for sleeping, it's not for cooking. And so they laughed at me. And many, many people laughed at me. Maybe 60 people I went to, and they said, no, we're not going to lend you money or put money in the business. I cried so many tears in those first years. But I started slowly. I made 10 bags with my partner in a house in outside Pretoria. And every week we sold 10 wonder bags at the market. And then we took the money and we made 10 more. And then we were able to make 15. And then one day, Raja saw the wonder bag. And I cooked them a curry with Raja at Unilever. And suddenly they understood that their customers can make very good curry in the Wonder Bag. And so 14 years later, I'm still in business. And I want to bring this business. I am so excited to have met Kathy. Because I want a Wonder Bag to be in every single household in South Africa. I am very passionate about the women of Africa. It is because of the woman that I am here today. I believe that if we stand together, we can make a big, big change in our country. I even ran against in an election in 2008 because I wanted to be more women in power. But somebody said to me, Sisi, your power is business. You need the Wonder Bag to be in every home. And that is why I am very grateful today and very thankful to Kathy for recognizing that all of you who are part of Kwanalu and other women's groups would also like to join us on our entrepreneurial journey to help you to help your businesses, but also to support your communities, to make sure with the load shedding, with the costs going up, the prices, our country's we've got a lot of problems. But if we can make cooking much cheaper, safer, cleaner, then we can have much better opportunities. And so today I was asked by Kathy and the Kwanalu team to introduce you to the Wonderbag. There are so many opportunities that we can look at, that we can explore together as organizations. My goal is to get Wonderbags into every house in South Africa that needs a Wonderbag and wants a Wonderbag at a price that people can afford it. And so we are exploring the partnership of how we can support you as entrepreneurs, how maybe we can create more entrepreneurs. A lot of people do catering out of the Wonderbags. There are many, many entrepreneurs across Africa that they started with the Wonderbags. And so I would love to tell you many, many stories, but we know it works. And for 14 years, we have been working with women all over Africa. I have Wonderbags in homes, in refugee camps, in rural Zululand, in Mpupameni, in the Western Cape, in every province we have Wonderbags. But we now need, with COVID, we need to get more Wonderbags in. And a big question, how do we afford to buy a Wonderbag? So if you Google Wonderbag and you go on our shop, it is 350 Rand. That is too much. People cannot afford to buy the Wonderbag at 350 Rand. So we as an organization are raising funding to ensure that we can make the price at a price that every single woman in this country can buy it. We want to work with you, every one of you, to see how we can get into your communities, how we can support the women of your communities, your gogos, your young men who are supporting, young girls, everybody. How can we support those people get a Wonderbag into their home, which will give them extra money every month, not having to buy electricity, paraffin, gas. One gas cylinder in a school used to last 1 week. If we put Wonderbags in the school, it lasts 6 months, because you only have to bring the food to the boil and then you take it and put it in the bag. And you close the bag and it carries on cooking. You don't need more fire or anything. The heat is in the bag. A very big question that everybody has: can you cook pap, ugali, mealie meal? It has many names in different parts of the world. Can it cook pap? This is the best papa cooker you will ever find in your life, because the reason that you stir the pap is to stop it burning on the bottom. Now you stir the pap for 5 minutes. You get the lumps out of it. You get the heat in it. It starts to poop, poop, poop in the pot. You take it off the pot. You put it in the bag. And 1 hour later, your pap is delicious. And I always do pap tastings because I am very particular about the pap that I eat. And my back Hey, ngihluku kakhulu. Ma iguvuza means so, it means so kataza. Now I just do it for 5 minutes and put it in the bag. Sampan beans, mahodu, my walkie-talkie, my curry, every single thing you want to cook, you can cook in the Wonderbag. You cannot fry. That's the only thing. But it is an amazing, amazing cooker. And if you don't believe me, next time we meet, we will bring other people who will tell you their stories. Last week, we were in Pondoland, Transkei, and there are so many people there who are farming and living in rural Pondoland. And we were invited to a food festival where we were demonstrating and selling the bags at a price that everybody could afford. And when we went to sleep on the 4th night, everybody was in the one mokukwan, in the pajamas. 6 o'clock in the morning, koko, koko, koko. And there was a line of women, 6 o'clock in the morning, wanting Wonderbags. And Alice, who's on the call, she was in that hut. I was not there. And she, in her nightie, got up and started to collect data and to give people Wonderbags. Many, many people came from far away. And I think when we meet again, we will be able to share those stories with you. It's very difficult when you're talking to yourself on a computer. But I would love to know if there are any questions. Alice, maybe you'd like to add something, or Kathy. And I just want to share with you my last word is the journey of an entrepreneur is hard. There's no other way of saying it. I have suffered a lot. There have been many months where I don't know how I'm going to pay the people making the bags. I don't know how I will pay for the electricity. I don't have any money. But I have made it. Every time I borrow something, and it is a very difficult journey, but it is the journey that gives us freedom. And if you believe in something, don't let somebody tell you it won't work. I was told so many times, this bag is rubbish. It is a bad business idea. We have over 2 million bags in houses today. If you stick at it, you will be a success. Being an entrepreneur, I have seen now, it is 99% hard work, 1% of luck. And so don't give up, my friends. We stand together, all of us, and we should help each other with the innovations and the business ideas and the wishes we have for our communities, because each of us can make a big difference. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. So Sarah, thank you very much, and thank you to Alice, and then Lisa, who's in the background in the KZN side. Much appreciate you joining today and sharing your story in Khuluma isiZulu. We really appreciate that more than anything else, I think, to be able to have shared your story. And you might say that it's, not the Queen's isiZulu, but it might be the King's isiZulu. So we are very happy to have heard you. And I think our audience would have appreciated that because so often, yesterday with my community meeting, one of the ladies, Pindile, the first thing she said to me is that I said, the training going forward will all be in Zulu. And she said, and what about you, Kathy? And I thought, oh my goodness, anyway, I'm a bit old for that, but it is something I think that we need to all focus on. So thank you, Sarah. Though I think I didn't know if I maybe missed in the conversation, but earlier on we had covered in one of the presenters, I think it was Ntuthu, who's involved with policy and legislation at a high level. She's even a global ambassador in some of these things, the whole story about that, you know, the green economy. And she mentioned on a couple of occasions climate change, you know, and I mean, today we've had such problems with this electricity. So I think your Wonderbag is so aptly positioned in terms of addressing these issues, but also well done on taking the initiative in the carbon credit line, because carbon credits is generally very unknown to all of us. It's not a place where anybody would look for a business opportunity. So again, just demonstrating your entrepreneurial type of search that you are constantly on. You know, there's the Wonderbag. It's solving an immediate problem for the Gogos. It's helping in terms of smoke in the huts. It's helping in terms of reducing the cost. But more importantly now, you can buy your Wonderbag and you can get a carbon credit. And then you're doing something on a global scale for this whole greenhouse gas emissions and the climate change story. So thank you. And thank you to Alice. And we certainly, in terms of Kwanalu, look forward to working with you guys in partnership. And also to let everybody on the call today know that there is a question in the famous survey. So there is a survey that everybody will receive, not only the 30 or so that could join us today, but the 225 who registered will receive the survey. And there is a last question about how they would like to participate in this Wonderbag opportunity. So either as a marketingpreneur, as you're calling them now, or a buyer of a Wonderbag, as well as obviously a sewer of a Wonderbag. So we've asked those questions, and we certainly will then feed that information back to you. And all my women yesterday that I spoke to 100 women yesterday, 50 in the morning and 50 in the afternoon, and everybody was told at the end of their first week of training, they need to bring 50 Rand in their purses, and we're going to do a Wonderbag demo at every single training that Kwanalu does for WYRE. So you are with us and we are with you. So thank you very much. And thank you, Alice. Lovely to see your face, and because that I haven't seen before, so we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. We so appreciate being on this call.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, ladies. Enjoy the rest of your conference or your lunch.
Bye-bye, everybody, and thank you.
Great. So we're at the end of our program, and there's been a number of comments in our chat as to how inspirational today has been. And, you know, from the very first speaker, where we talked about sharing your journey, you need to work hard. You yourself need to know the job, have hands on. We need to come together, work together. We need to understand the needs. We need to have sound financial standing and the right attitude. And we need to pay it forward. I think that pay it forward has come through repeatedly this morning. We need to continue to surround ourselves with like-minded people, positive people. We need to spend our time wisely. We need to be humble but assertive. And we should never give up when doors are closed. And I think that was one of the characteristics that I mentioned at the beginning. You must persevere, never, ever give up. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't succeed. Don't give up. Don't be afraid to be different. The message about taking a risk, being climate smart, I think that is taking a risk today. Very few people are thinking about how are we climate smart. Well done on that initiative. Being innovative. Again, when we look at the climate smart approach, That's being innovative. Don't be discouraged. As I said, never ever give up. As our speakers have said, don't give up. If you are unemployed, don't allow yourself to stop working. Where there is a will, there is always a way. And how do we help others that are willing to work? How do we mentor? How do we share? How do we tell that story? How do we share our story? How do we pay it forward? How do we help others to create business opportunities that will create jobs? And I think passing that baton onto the youth to create a food secure society was so important to hear that today. It is our opportunity to pass that baton to create that food secure society. It's about putting into place an inclusive approach. How do we work together? How do we find our purpose in life? Constantly the message that came through this morning was, together we can make a change. Never give up. Make a choice to be the change you want to see right where you are. Those were just some of the key points that I took out of this morning. And again, I just want to thank every speaker that's participated. I want to thank every participant on the webinar today. It has been truly, truly inspirational. Remember to complete the survey. Keep an eye out for that email that's going to come to your inbox. It might go into your spam box or your junk box. So just look out for it. It will definitely be on its way to you. Complete that survey. We are looking at the information that comes through from that. As Kathy said, we're on our next step. We're needing to identify candidates to go forward with some training and various opportunities that we're going to be offering. So please complete that survey. And lastly, what I'd like to just do this morning is just to say a great deal of thank you to our team here, Dr. Kathy Hurly, who's come on board and has been absolutely amazing and is connecting us to make a difference. Again, how do we make a change? Cindy, Amber, the Kwanalu team, I just want to say thank you very much for all the time, the stress that we've been through today. I do feel like I've gone grey over the last 3 hours with the stress that we've been through. But we never give up. We will always look forward. We will always look to what we can do and how we can make a change together. So with that, I'd like to close off the meeting this afternoon and again say thank you very much. Look forward, look upwards, never give up. Keep well. Thank you. Goodbye.